Hi, everyone. Can you hear me? I hope you can hear me. Someone let me know you can hear me, please. It is the 6th of February. It is Thursday. Thank you, Caroline. Thursday, the 6th of February. Hi, Shining Star. I want to welcome everyone in. Please hit that like button on your way in if you're enjoying yourself or while you're here, and subscribe if you have not subscribed to us yet. Hi, everyone. Also, do not forget we have a members live Saturday, 1 p.m. And I will be giving away a couple merch items for Sebastian as a thank you to all of you for your support. Thank you, mods, for being here. Gma, I see you're in the house. Thank you so much, so very much. Hello, Caroline Miller, Bev Heilman, Panda Bear's mom. So good to see all of you. Boy, things are getting explosive in the Sebastian Rogers case, right? Hi, Bob H. Place, Bong Rip Spinny, Zena, Joni Clear. Hello. Becky Laux, Starlito, hello. Shining Star, Gypsy Girl, Zena, Tabitha Star. It's so good to see all of you. I hope you had a really, really good Thursday. Almost a Friday, right? Hi, Leanne Nicholson. Thank you. I have new socks on. Lisa Voigt. Hi, Justice, for Kylo. Justice, I had asked you a question on our live this morning. I wanted to know if the person that you had mentioned had been missing had been found. So just not being nosy, just checking on you. Hi, Prayer Warrior. Hello, everyone. Well, things are getting explosive. Well, not like they haven't been for 11 months, right? We are 20 days away from being 1 year from when Sebastian Wayne Drake Rogers was reported missing. Hendersonville, Tennessee. Allegedly was home alone with his mother. The doors were locked when they went to sleep and locked when they awakened. There was no sign of breaking and entering. There was no scent of Sebastian leading from the home. He was not caught on footage that we know of, we're told of, that law enforcement has verified. But as we know, there is footage out there of flashlights. Law enforcement has not verified that. However, we know many experts have weighed in and verified that it looks like people moving. Okay, headlights, headlamps, or lanterns. I'm sorry, my doggy's just going bananas over here doing somersaults. So forgive me if you're hearing her. So we got back from the park just a little bit ago, so they're hyped up. But so tonight we're going to discuss the X post where there was a 100K hit put on towards Dog the Bounty Hunter, allegedly. AtNight employees, Nick the Hat. And when I say hit, and I'm glad one of you asked me, one of you messaged me, emailed me today and said, Jay, I don't mean to sound silly, but I don't know what you mean completely by hit. Are there different kinds of hits? Well, what they mean by a hit, and it's a great question, and I'm glad. Oh, I'm so glad you found her. Safe, Justice? Took you 3 weeks. My goodness. How old was she, and did you find her safe, my friend? Thank goodness you found her. A hit is to have someone unalive another person, and they pay them money. So that's basically, unaliving for hire. Hi, Tallulah Ruby Monroe, Kathy Haltgreif, Charlene McPike. I see lots of members in the chat, so don't forget Saturday, 1 p.m. We're going to do some couple of Sebastian Rogers giveaways as a thank you to all of you for your support. All of you, I appreciate each and every one of you in here, and welcome in. If this is your first time, we hope you come back and hit that subscribe. So it's really interesting. We're going to talk about the hit. Apparently there's been hits, and Messages sent with their children's and families' photos and addresses put in the subject lines. And one thing I did want to share with all of you, because I know the concern is very high, very, very high right now. And it is not, because I wanted to look up Tennessee law for hiring a hitman. And I haven't delved into the law, but I did see someone who hired one went for 8 years to prison. However, it's not just a state crime. It's also a federal crime if any means of interstate communications were used to further the plot. So state and could be federal if any means of interstate communication were used to further the plot. Okay, so that's really serious. This is getting really, really serious. And we have to keep asking ourselves, why in the world are people wanting the people unalive who are searching for Sebastian who's missing? Hi, Amanda Jane. It makes no sense. Oh, that's such great news. Such a happy ending. I hope you don't mind if I share it because we don't get many of those. So Justice's Kylo daughters had been missing, and she said she was found, in a bad situation, but was recovered. She was 14, is in her 20s now with her own children. I was very lucky. What a blessing. What a blessing. You've had some very questionable friends requests due to this case too. Oh, interesting. I don't know. I'm seeing, okay, here is what I heard regarding the Nancy Grace. Hi, CB. Hi, Whispering Winds. Hi, Maria Gutierrez. What I heard about Nancy Grace was when it first was filmed, I heard from Tony Mathis that it wasn't going to be released last week, but this week, because they were adding some information to it. Okay. Then we listened to the podcast. Justin played the podcast, and we played it as well on my channel. And that's the last I heard. Now I'm hearing from different people she took it down, but it wasn't even supposed to air yet that I knew of, unless it went out in the last couple of days. You may know more than I am. CB, you be careful while you're traveling. Hope your foot's doing better, hon. Hi, little Miss Sharon, Valerie. Welcome to the family. We have a new family member, everyone. Well, please welcome Valerie to the family. Valerie, Saturday, 1 p.m. Don't miss it. We have a good time together. Welcome to our family. Okay. Now we have a little bit, it might be a little bit longer of a show, because what I have for you is we're going to share the X post about the hit and the drama, which is going to take us to Jen Coffindaffer, a piece of her last live from yesterday. And if you were with me this morning, I discussed it verbally, but I didn't share her audio. I'm going to share it today. She addresses the drama, but then she also provides us with a little nugget that she's about the case, not monumental, but gives us a nugget of the case of hope, actually. Hi, Peter Pan 13. So good to see you. Nicey Marie. Hello. And then from there, we're going to go to Peter Hyatt. And the reason being is we've listened to Peter Hyatt before, but this is one that I missed. It is on prosecuting cases. And that's a good lead in from Jen Coffindaffer's nugget. And he includes it through the lens of a few cases, and one of whom is Sebastian Rogers. So I think we can learn a lot from that. It will be my first time watching it. We'll watch it together as a family. So welcome in, everyone. Grab your popcorn, grab your Coke, your coffee, whatever, your snacks. I love Peter, Susan Kemp. Welcome in, by the way. You can't see me. No, I can't, but it's good to see you. So grab what you need. A little bit longer of a show. When I saw that he had a video out on prosecuting cases and was using Sebastian's, along with John Bonet in another case, to look through the lens of the prosecuting the case using Sebastian's case, I think that'll be very telling for us, right? Coffee and snacks. Yeah, snacks. Now my dogs, I used to always say want a treat, and now I always say want a snack. Want a snack. Okay, well, thank you for being here. We're going to start with the X post. I'm very excited for Saturday for our reunion. Hi, Little Red. Oh, that's okay. Thank you for being here. I'm glad to see you. Hi, Chemistry Queen. Let me share the screen. I'm sure many of you have heard this already, and I shared it this morning. But I do want to share it. It's serious. Things are getting very dangerous, very toxic, and someone's going to get hurt. I'm afraid of that. I mean, on top of whoever harmed, hurt, took Sebastian. Public update on the search for Sebastian Wayne Drake Rogers, February 5th, 2025. For those of you new to the case, Sebastian was reported missing as a runaway. Okay. They reported that he had run away in the night, barefoot, no coat, no phone, no switch, just a little tiny fidget flashlight. Statement from AtNight Private Intelligence, and I'll blow this up for you because I know many of you do not have it and want to be able to get it on your phone. So there you go. AtNight continues to call on the public for tips and information regarding the disappearance of Sebastian Wayne Drake Rogers, 16. Every lead is valuable, and we strongly encourage anyone with relevant information to come forward. Additionally, the reward will substantially increase as the 1-year anniversary of Sebastian's disappearance approaches. The reward for Sebastian is $250,000 at this point, $50,000 of which came from the FBI at the 6-month mark. We are double that in time now. So no one has come forward. I'm afraid that the raise in a reward, because they have been raising it, will not bring someone forward, because I think that it could be family members linked to each other or have some people who have something on each other. I don't know. But let me tell you this. I sure hope someone comes forward and it works. Can't tell till you try something, and we have to try everything, right? Security concerns and escalating threats. Due to ongoing security threats, AtNight has shifted gears after receiving intelligence about a $100,000 hit allegedly placed on members of the team, including Dog the Bounty Hunter, Nick the Hat, and AtNight representatives. And like I said, that is not just a state crime, it is a federal crime if they used interstate communications to plan and move the plan forward. Serious stuff. A few nights ago, AtNight reviewed a direct message addressed to the search team, and it's Dog the Bounty Hunter, Nick the Hat, and AtNight representatives are the ones who allegedly have a hit placed on them. A few nights ago, AtNight reviewed a direct message addressed to the search team. The sender cautioned in part, hit is out, $100K. So now these are people who are putting out allegedly a hit on an intelligence agency, a celebrity bounty hunter, and their affiliates who are helping them. And they're all looking for a missing child. And there are people who are putting out a hit, an unaliving for hire allegedly, to stop these people who are looking for Sebastian Wayne Drake Rogers. Now, if Sebastian Wayne Drake Rogers ran away, this would not be occurring. Everyone would be looking for a runaway. But because, in my opinion, it is a criminal investigation which shows guilt, guilty parties would be the ones who are putting out hits on people. And unbelievable that they would escalate their crimes with these actions, allegedly, if this is occurring. So hit is out, $100K. People, friends, we are not just going to see, in my opinion, the individuals, and let me come back to you, in my opinion, we're not just going, hi, YouTuber. We're not just going to see the individuals hopefully eventually brought to justice who did this to Sebastian. I believe there's going to be a lot of other individuals brought forth in this crime. I believe there are people who know things, assisted with things. My opinion, now this is not to be taken as fact, entertainment. I am speculating, theorizing, sharing my opinions for a young man we care so much about who in 20 days will have been reported missing 1 year ago, Sebastian Wayne Drake Rogers. Okay. But I do not believe he walked away. I believe there is more than one person involved because I do believe the flashlight video. And if you don't, that's okay. We can disagree. Hi, Gigi for life. Hi, West Virginia Holla Girl, Teresa Wilson. We can absolutely disagree. We can learn from each other, collaborate. But the flashlights have kind of sold me on he made it home. The images in the background, I know they're controversial right now. But I do believe there's images in the background, and that's my opinion. And the footage I shared with you the other night that SF shared, I find it very fishy that he said there's no one lurking in the commons or being carried out, and he didn't even show the commons. That footage was of the Proudfoot's backyard neighbor, the one right behind them. And then he says, see, there's no one lurking, yet we see flashlights. And now there's an image of that. We could see a man's out there. I wonder. And then he has a banner across it saying image blurred, but the banner stops right below the window he's got lit, the window that's lit, and the two little lights, like he's drawing our attention to it. Okay. I wonder if that was intentional. I wonder if it's nothing and we're making something of it. Or I wonder if it's something and he's leaking it. I don't know. We don't know. We're just speculating. Thank you for being here. I'm going to continue reading this. Following this, where they read the message, hit is out, 100K. I've never seen anything like this while people are looking for a little boy. Following this, attorneys representing AtNight, its clients and volunteers, began receiving threatening emails containing photos of their children and spouses, along with their home addresses in the subject line. These emails were sent to AtNight's legal counsel in Pennsylvania, Philadelphia, Delaware County, and Pittsburgh. Unbelievable. Unbelievable. So we know that's happening interstate communications, right? Because I'm sure they don't all live in the same state. In addition to local and state officials in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, the FBI Philadelphia was also notified. Call for information. They're standing strong. They are. If you have any details related to these threats or the disappearance of Sebastian Wayne Drake Rogers, please contact Sebastian at manhunts.1. Call or text 844-922-3236. Dog the Bounty Hunter tip line, 833-TELL-DOG. And I don't know why people don't want them involved. They're helping to look. Dog the Bounty Hunters raised the awareness in the audience tremendously, right? It just doesn't make any sense. If you have any information, call Sumner County Sheriff's Office, Tennessee Bureau of Investigation, Tips to TBI, and the FBI tip line. I don't know why I don't even know why Sumner County, I don't know why Sumner County Sheriff's Office isn't working more directly with them, but law enforcement doesn't work with PIs usually and things like that. So that would probably explain it. AtNight remains resolute and undeterred. No amount of intimidation will prevent us from pursuing justice for Sebastian. Yeah. AtNight and its partners have no significant updates to report at this time, and I'm so glad they're not going to back away no matter what's going on. They're going to locate and get justice for him. Nevertheless, we remain resolute in our unwavering commitment to locating 16-year-old Sebastian Wayne Drake Rogers and diligently pursuing every lead with unwavering focus. We continue, I sure hope, and I'm going to give everyone the credit that everyone involved in this investigation is doing just that and not trying to back people off or turn people away. Because that too will come out in the trial, if there is one, which I'm hopeful and confident. We are Sebastian's army. We're not going to stop. We continue to analyze the information received, including public tips and surveillance data, while maintaining ongoing coordination with our partners. And again, they want you to call with any information concerning the whereabouts of Sebastian Wayne Drake Rogers. Sumner County Sheriff's Office, 615-451-3838, Tennessee Bureau of Investigation, which is 1-800-TBI-FIND, or tips to TBI at tbi.tennessee.gov. Your American Embassy or Consulate, or tips.fbi.gov. You can also contact Dog the Bounty Hunter at 833-TELL-DOG. or AtNight at 844-922-3236. And you can also send tips to Sebastian at manhunts.one. He's got his own tip line there with AtNight. Okay. Thank you for standing with us. Together, we will continue pushing forward until we have the answers Sebastian deserves. Now, in light of the fact that there's been this big cluster, over the date last seen, for 11 months, almost a year, we've heard February 26th, other than the first day, February 25th, but once it became an Amber Alert, we were told February 26th. Well, now Brandon Carter came out around the same time the images in the backyard came out, January 28th or 29th. And Brandon Carter, there was an email saying that a mistake was made mixing up the report date and the missing date in the beginning, and it was just never fixed. I do not believe that. I feel that's just like their trash truck. Okay. They didn't want these things to come out. Because if anyone has an error for 11 months that they let just sit there and they are the lead detective on a case, even if it's someone else's responsibility to change that, hopefully you have record that you've communicated constantly about it because it went to the FBI. Everyone's using it. So that will be a huge problem, my friends, if that is not rectified or clarified or explained. There's going to be a lot of explaining to do. You're from Kendall Like the Motor Oil says, I'm from Chesapeake where KP is from, and now I'm hyper aware of how I say snacks. Hi, Perfect Pun, aka Jenny Mount. Hi, Charlene. Good to see all of you. I need to plug in my computer real quick. Hello, Barbalua. Carol Loves Embroidery. Tallulah Ruby. Ginger Girls. Mom. Thank you for being here, CB and Castle. Let me get my cord. I'll be right back. Hi, Gypsy. Okay. So, first thing we're going to do is, in light of all the drama, is to have listened to Jen Coffindaffer from Break the Case. She's an FBI agent for over 2 decades. She's an absolute value to our true crime community. She keeps things factual. She gives a law enforcement perspective, which is absolutely wonderful. She keeps the drama. She maneuvers around the drama for us and helps us see things that are going on. And she shares what she can. Absolutely valuable person to our community. Jen Coffindaffer, Break the Case. I'm going to play 2 little pieces from her show yesterday. You go ahead and over there and watch the whole thing, but we're going to listen to her address the drama as well as a little nugget she wants to share at the end. The reason I've left this poster up of this cutie pie, he's so darling, is I want to point out to you a review of surveillance footage. This is Dog and AtNight's poster because we're talking about the change in date. I believe it is the 26th, and they're trying to get people off those images in the backyard, just like they said trash truck for the flashlights, but I could be wrong, my opinion. It could be an error that the FBI, TBI, Sumner County Sheriff's Office all decided not to fix for a year. I don't believe that. Okay, and they made an error on the Amber Alert. I just don't believe it. Okay. But a review of surveillance footage of Sebastian Rogers from February 25th in Hendersonville suggests he may be in danger. Okay, so they have surveillance footage of him on the 25th. Now, I don't know if it's something in addition to the Texas Roadhouse, because it does say he appears to be in danger. Okay, that concerns me very, very much. Hopefully, we can find him and bring him home soon. We need to bring him home. Hi, Susie. I see lots of family members. Gypsy, Mandy Moo in the bushes. Hello. Hi, Mommy. Can you 41? We are going to be listening to Jen Coffindaffer. She is going to talk about I don't think so, CB. That's what I'm worried about. With all the threats in the money trail, would any extended family or those in the know tell? I just don't think so. I think it's going to be either family loyalty or people who have things on each other. That's just my opinion. Thank you all. Now, this is full credit. Let me put the banner up to Jen Coffindaffer. Break the case. And then we'll get to Peter Hyatt. Like I said, we've watched Peter's videos before, but this one, I don't know how I missed it. It's on prosecuting cases. And he talks about prosecuting cases. And one of the 3 cases he uses is through the Sebastian Rogers case lens. So I think we'll learn a lot from it. I hope so. We're watching it together for the first time as a family because I have not seen it. Without further ado, though, this is Jen Coffindaffer coming up. It's hard to believe, you all, that it's a year, right? Almost a year. I just absolutely so hard to believe. I really, really, really didn't want to be this far down the road, or this far down the road, right?
Get information. There's just
2:15. I got to get to 2:15. Sorry, I thought I had it set up for you. I always do this. Seems.
I think it's important to share just anything that I come to know. So let's talk number 1 about Dramaville that is going on. I'm just going to say this. This situation that I see in the true crime community is really disheartening. It's so disheartening because in law enforcement, a lot of times we'll have disagreements about a case. One agent won't think one thing, another agent another. Oftentimes you're working on task force. At task forces, you have locals involved, you have state authorities involved, and you don't always line up with what you should do next, who you think the main suspect is, what should be the tools that you use, consensual monitoring. Should you try to get a wire? Should you do subpoenas versus search warrants, the pros and cons of those to get information? There's just lots of things that go on behind the scenes. And you will have, meaning generally speaking about agents and officers, heated discussions about what is going to happen and about who may be involved. And it's not pretty all the time, but it's civil and it's productive, and there's no name calling, and no one makes fun of anyone, because at the end of the day, the goal is, let's just use an example of a missing autistic, now 16-year-old child. The goal is to find that child. So while you might have disagreements, you literally work together to come together and reach compromise in your decision making, and you move forward. Then you have this whole thing play out again once law enforcement has completely come together and gathered facts. You have the same issues happen when you bring it to, in my case, as a federal agent, the United States Attorney's Office, at the local level, the district attorney's office. You have the same situation, right? Because you as law enforcement have said, listen, we have it. This is a strong enough case to move forward on these individuals. These individuals are absolutely involved in this criminal conduct. And you have a prosecutor saying, listen, I have to prove this beyond a reasonable doubt, while you're going to be at the table next to me, helping me get through these facts and help me with the questions and reading the juror and juries and so forth. I'm the one standing up there, putting the law together with the facts and getting this case down the road. And I got one shot, pretty much. I mean, you can have a hung jury and have a secondary shot, but most of the time you have one shot to get this conviction in someone you believe is guilty. So I always say they required, meaning prosecutors require, a whale in a bucket, not a fish in a bucket, because you always bring that fish. They want the whale. They want beyond, way beyond a reasonable doubt. And I hope everybody keeps that in mind with a lot of these cases that we talk about. In other words, it's gone past all the agents and officers involved in that case for them to reach their conclusion. And now it's also gone past, by the time you see it going to court or somebody being charged, at the prosecutor's office, which also has levels that it has to be checked off on and agreed with for charges to be brought. That's a long, 3 to 4 minute diatribe to say this. And I don't know what I was really looking for. You know, I haven't been on YouTube that long. I got on back in, I believe, February, March, then was off for a period of time, and then kind of got back on, and I've really been going strong at it now. But the more I see, it's really disheartening in the social media circles and certainly in the YouTube creator circles. It really is, because instead of individuals, just think if everybody actually worked together. But this is why no one works together. It's very simple. And I think everybody knows this, because there are certain people, certain creators that have absolutely no interest in these cases. They have no interest in justice. Literally, most of them, and I'm not kidding you, have a rap sheet a mile long. They've committed terrible crimes, and they really just don't care. This is just a way that they are finding that they don't have to be employed by anybody, and they can make a living at this. I think people who do this full time, as opposed to somebody like me who does this very, very part time. And it's difficult to watch, really, what I've been seeing in the last week. Just the cutthroat name calling, bashing after one another surrounding Sebastian Rogers' case.
Hi, Michael. So nice to meet you. I'm Amanda. But you can call me.
And like I said, this isn't just about creators on YouTube. I mean, I am seeing it on X like I've never seen it before. And I understand that one of the people involved in the drama is being paid a very healthy amount to do whatever they can to negatively,
I believe she means
I think, kind of thwart any social media direction at their clients. I get that. We all saw that. I did a whole live on it. And we all you have to do is watch the Lore Lodge. I challenge everybody, watch the Lore Lodge, take a look at that episode. You'll really see all you need to see. No one needs to really talk any more about that character. So anyway, but moving on, number 3, then we're going to talk about the nugget. But as we talk about this fighting amongst the creators, all I can say is I hope that everybody here that's in this audience and everybody who cares, truly cares about Sebastian, who isn't just doing this because The Guiding Light and All My Children have gotten a bit boring and it's more interesting to watch true crime. I mean true crimers, which I believe on my Twitter X page and on this page, that's what I see. And I love, like I said, listening and seeing everybody's words and reflections and takes, because it really is important what you all have to say, and I appreciate. But for those of you who are in that category, I would merely ask, and I truly hope this happens, I would merely ask for you to take a deep dive in terms of who you're really following and listening to and giving your hard-earned money to, and more important, your time to. Because I think it's just really important to take a look at that. When you go on a channel, are they discussing facts, and are they discussing particular pieces of evidence, witness statements? Are they going through all of that? What are they doing? Is their full agenda just to discredit somebody else or another channel? So I wanted to touch base with that.
So I'm glad she addressed the drama. It is shocking to most of us that people would behave like that when we're all trying to work together to search for a missing child. And I have seen it on X too. It's just gotten really bad on X. She's absolutely correct. But the drama, what we need to do is we need to just keep moving forward like we had been. Oh, Chris debunked the image of a person, said it was the tree. Thank you, Robin. Thank you. You all are so good to me. You know I can't watch during the day, so I appreciate you all. Hi, Judy Jones, Mary Lindsay. So I appreciate that she addressed some of this stuff, because she did say, and you're right, when most of us who've had jobs of one kind or another, we've had to work with others and collaborate and disagree. And if someone disagrees with us in our job settings, we don't call them the F word and start calling and threatening their families. We continue to civilly have a discussion. So she's right. There are 2 elements on it. There's very different elements on YouTube as to how people are approaching the case. And I love it. And I hope you all are thinking about it. And I know a lot of you have, because I know a lot of you have left the hate channels. If you're not watching a channel that's giving you facts and evidence, but showing another channel and just criticizing and laughing and making fun, is that really true crime? How are you helping Sebastian or any other child, right? That's what we need to ask ourselves. How are we helping Sebastian? Is watching this helping, or is encouraging everyone to come together in the best we can? Right? We're not all perfect. We make mistakes. We're working on things. We see things differently, but we're trying to work together. Hello, Victoria Burgess. So hi, Mickey Shell, Stephen, good to see you. Teresa, Bo, trying to catch as many as I can. Teresa Wilson, thank you so much for the super sticker. I really do appreciate that. Very, very much. Hi, Lady for Justice, Elizabeth Smith. I also appreciate you all choosing to be here with me this evening. DC Prime Time. we're going to now go over to Jen's at the end where she's providing, because she addressed the drama. Just don't watch the channels who do it. If they're not covering cases and they're not showing evidence, or they're not trying to logically discuss or figure it out, do you want to spend your time there? Do you want to spend your membership money there? Whatever you're doing. Okay. So it's just a really good advice to think about is what level of professionalism are you immersing yourself in when it comes to the cases? Now we're going to go where she's talking about the little nugget that she knows that she wants to pass along to us. And it does give us hope. I'm sorry, I've been talking. This again is full credit to Jen Coffindaffer. And Teresa, I hope you heard me thank you for the super sticker. I hope I was not on mute, but thank you, my dear. That is so thoughtful. So very thoughtful. Thank you, Teresa. I was on mute. Sorry, friends. Okay, so I'm going to go over. We're going to listen to her share the nugget that she has learned and wants to pass on to us. Like she said, it's not monumental, but it gives us some hope.
Of you and your devices. So try Aura. Finally, I want to talk about this nugget, if you will. And again, I'm defining nugget as something that I think is important to pass along, not necessarily an epiphany, but something I do think is important. And my nugget to you today is that I truly believe since April of last year, which was the last update we had on Sebastian Rogers from law enforcement. I'm not talking about the news coming on and saying there's no progress, and then they play the clip from back in April, because if you look, that's what has happened. The nugget is that I believe they, based on a few factors, I believe that they are making progress. I believe they are down the road with a theory. And I believe, circling back now to what I originally talked about with law enforcement and how you reach conclusions and how you have to work and collaborate with the U.S. attorney, in this case, the district attorney, on these matters. I believe they're coming to at least time to make some decisions. And I think that I never like to lock myself into a time frame, but I'm going to say this: unlike the Summer Wells case, I think we are going to have a conclusion to this case. I really do. And I just wanted to say that based on what I'm seeing from law enforcement, that they're down the road. And I think that they are working hard to bring this case to some sort of conclusion and to charge appropriate individuals that they believe may be responsible or are responsible. They're not going to charge anybody they don't fully believe are responsible. So I just wanted to leave you all with that, that I think we'll get down the road. And I don't think we'll have another Summer Wells. Could that be the outcome? I can't rule it out, but I like the trajectory that this case is going. So until next time, which is at 5 o'clock, when we're going to be talking about the
Can you hear me? Can you hear me? Let me make sure y'all can hear me. I know I am to bear. Shocking, right? My heart breaks for Seth too, Charlotte. Absolutely. Absolutely. Teresa's never subscribed to any of them or watches them. Hi, Charles. Good to see you. You agree with me? I'm worried someone else is going to get hurt too. And yes, if that, I was wondering that myself. If there's evidence that could have brought them in sooner and someone else gets hurt, will law enforcement or the state of Tennessee or something be held liable? Like the state of Utah was sued for Gabby Petito for letting her leave after they stopped her with him. And then he was unalive. So hopefully it won't turn out to that, right? But she's just such a wonderful, wonderful person in our community. And so that's good news. She believes they're making progress. She doesn't share things she doesn't believe. Okay. She believes they're making progress. They're down the road with a theory. And remember, we were told one of the theories went out with the trash. That's not my theory. I'm just going to say that to you. Tony had shared that the last week. That's not my theory, but it's a possible and plausible. Yes. But I think something else may have gone in the trash, but she thinks that they know it's time to make some decisions. And unlike Summer Wells, we're going to have a conclusion. She sees that law enforcement is down the road and wants to bring it to some conclusion and charge individuals, plural, that they believe responsible. Bless Summer Wells, right? 2 days ago was her 9th birthday. So Summer Moon Utah Wells, we need to bring her home too. We're Summer's army also. So that's really good news. And I kept thinking, how can they not move forward with everything that's coming out, whether it's accurate or not? They got to come forward and say something, right? Like they did with the green hoodie, but they're not. So they're not coming out and saying anything other than that they had the date wrong, right? So very interesting. Hi, ICU, Cheryl Webb, Teresa Wilson. So I want to get to Peter Hyatt. We've watched his videos regarding Sebastian before. This one, I do not know how I overlooked it. He is addressing how cases are prosecuted. This morning in our live, when Jen Coffindaffer brought that up, that she saw charges coming, I showed you what happens when it gets to the DA. We discussed what a preliminary hearing is, what the grand jury is. It could go either way to get charges. And now we are going to watch Peter Hyatt, who has a video where he is talking about prosecuting cases, because I hope and believe we're getting close. I hope so. But I think that's what we should look at tonight. And he is going to share prosecuting cases through the lens of the Sebastian Rogers case and a couple of others. So we're going to watch it with him. And I'm going to be coming in and out because I do need to stop it for fair use. And it is full credit to Peter Hyatt. Full credit to Peter Hyatt. Let me find his banner that I made for him. And say a prayer for Mr. Hyatt because he is ill. Seriously ill from what I'm understanding. So he's such a wonderful, so he is a statement analyst. He's just absolutely so great. I'm trying to find I made a banner for him and I don't see it. Okay, well, we are going to go ahead and watch him. And here it is. Okay. There we go. We're going to put this up. Full credit to Peter Hyatt, statement analyst, prosecuting cases. And I'm excited to see what we can learn about prosecuting cases, as well as the fact that he's using the Sebastian Rogers case, as well as 2 others. Let's get started.
I wanted to talk about prosecuting cases and a couple missing person cases that we've covered over the years, and probably one that is standing up right now is the one on Caitlin Markham. But just a couple of thoughts first regarding analysis and specifically working with law enforcement, which has its own very specific context. With prosecution, and this unfolds, I think, slowly from the beginning of the work onto the work of law enforcement, that sort of thing. And I'd like to look at a couple of cases, the Caitlin Markham, Sebastian Robbins, just touch upon a little bit with the JonBenet Ramsey case, and some of the interesting things in the news in the last 4 years with the German prosecutors regarding Madeleine McCann. Just some thoughts, no new analysis or anything like that, but some of the cases that I think interest us. So Caitlin Markham went missing in 2011, and somewhere along the line there was a 911 was released, our emergency number here in the United States, in which her boyfriend called in. And then 6 days later, and this was much bigger, at least from my perspective, is he did an interview on radio. So when he did 911, I came to an opinion on that, and then the opinion was affirmed and strengthened in the radio interview. But it's just an opinion. And I often say that when I have any involvement with law enforcement, which includes prosecution, I will either not comment on a case at all. If I'm asked to remove the analysis from the statement analysis blog or YouTube video, I'll do that. Nothing should interfere with the cause of justice, and each person that is involved in a case is going to be a target of a defense attorney, rightfully so. And it just makes things more complicated. But there's also another reason, and it's an ethical reason, in the sense that it's easy to step back and say, hey, look at this pronoun. But law enforcement has to go and prove that. They've got to bring evidence, and this is a good system in that sense, that there's a high threshold to overcome, because it is for the cause of justice, and some justice gets lost because of it, but it's a system that is designed to protect the innocent. So if someone has a case against you, it must be proven beyond a reasonable doubt. And there's a different threshold in the world of child abuse, that's a preponderance of evidence. But investigators have to work from the bottom up. And the analysis can be of great value in terms of focusing and time saving, unless, of course, it's just misleading. And I often say that I won't comment on a case that I have involvement in. And there is an exception, and the exception being two exceptions that I can think of. The first exception is appeals have run out, and I have the green light from the investigators. So, you can talk about that now. And those cases become very valuable in training. In working with law enforcement, the speculation has to be quite low. And over the years, I work with the same law enforcement agencies repeatedly, because the work has to be solid. It has to be good. And in order for it to be good, it needs questions, and it needs debate. It needs disagreement, and it needs trust eventually. But after a number of cases, remember, we're looking at words where they're looking at evidence, and they do not share evidence until after analysis is done, whether it be in training or personally. It's very important not to be influenced by those things, because it's not always as it seems. And prosecutors must make decisions upon that work. And of course, law enforcement is going to be very proud of their work. We've A to Z'd this. We've looked at everything. Here's the evidence. And sometimes a prosecutor makes a decision that it needs to go before a grand jury. How many people realize that
My name is Cecilia. I'm a mom of 2 girls, a psychologist, and I choose to transform my PBC treatment journey with iCurvo.
John Benet Ramsey?
I'm glad he's going to be talking about the grand jury. Oh, Karen, that's amazing. Karen Powers says she's guessing that GH is in the witness protection program. The reason Ellie claimed it was a nothing burger, allegedly, and in my opinion. Do you think, that's good thinking. I love this crew. You all are such good thinkers. We're just throwing as many things out there, right? Oh, you still have your purple light bulb lit with Sebastian, or for summer, and Sebastian's too. I meant to ask, what is YHWT property? Someone had put out there. YHWT property. What is that you believe Summer's on? So he is talking about the grand jury coming up, and I love Peter Hyatt. He is, yes, low for speculation. Yes, there's little pieces in here. Tennessee does have the DP. Yes. Oh, which takes a lot of evidence to go to trial. Thank you, Judy Jones. Don't forget, we have our members live Saturday, 1 p.m. Eastern time, and I'm going to be giving away a couple of Sebastian Wayne Drake Rogers merch as a thank you for your support, everyone. You guys have been wonderful through the passing of my mom and everything else. Just a wonderful community. Okay, let's go ahead. We're going to keep going. Peter Hyatt, statement analyst. He's now going to talk about when the prosecutors call in the grand jury. And so, in Sumner County, if they had a grand jury for the month of February, it meets Monday through Thursday, the first week of the month. So that today would have been the last day they would have met. Okay, Gmo needs merge. Okay, you want a Sebastian something? Okay, so they may have met. We don't know. But I think they're still working on things, in my opinion. Let's keep going. Let's see what he says about grand juries. I have to mute myself.
These parents were indicted by a grand jury in her death. That's not something that media has covered much. They were indicted for good reason. And what I'm hoping to do is get Stephen Pagano scheduled to come on to do a broadcast in the morning to just cover the ransom note. He's a law enforcement official. He is talented. He is experienced. I'm hoping that Stephen will go into a second career upon retirement from law enforcement and be a full-time instructor. He's that good. His work on that case, I think that people will be quite amazed and appreciate it. Someone wrote, the prosecutor got intimidated by John Ramsey's lawyers. I agree that that's what happened. But they were indicted in her death. The prosecutor, and this is the first I've heard of it, and I haven't heard of it since, the prosecutor refused to sign the indictment. The grand jury heard the evidence from Steve Thomas, the detective, and I recommend his book to you all. And from my perspective, it was overwhelming, as the words have affirmed over the years on what happened. And I know that when people see a documentary that they have some kind of emotional commitment to it, and it's hard to shake. So, that one about the son and that sort of thing, and it's more nuanced than that. But I'd like to get Stephen on and we'll talk about it. But I think just to state of that ransom note would be very fascinating, very fascinating. And I think people would appreciate that. So a prosecutor has to really overcome all sorts of challenges. And sometimes the only work I do with prosecution is a list of questions, or they can draw the questions themselves from the analysis when it's submitted or when they requested, and but they have to prove.
I saw someone say you really love Peter Hyatt, but you disagree with him on the John Benet Ramsey case. I do as well. I do as well. Also, I disagree with a couple. There's another of them who analyze. I disagree as well. And I highly recommend, if you have not gone and watched the John Benet series that Netflix put out recently, I believe in December, I highly recommend it. It's a 3-part series, I think, and it's very good, and it sheds some light on some information, like Peter Hyatt saying here, the grand jury indicted them. Well, the grand jury indicted them for child abuse, not for unaliving her. Okay, so that is something I just wanted to clarify before we moved on. So thank you all for being here. He's going to also use the Sebastian Rogers case as talking about prosecutions. And we've been researching that a little bit and started this morning with the preliminary hearings, the grand juries, Sumner County schedule again. So let's listen to Peter.
And they have to know that. So working with a prosecutor, whether it's from me or from law enforcement, it can be difficult. And I like to see both sides in that. But in working with law enforcement, analysis work must be put to the test. This is not something that's done anonymously, and it has to be done upfront. It has to be put to that test, and then when something is adjudicated, including through the appellate system, then I can talk about it with their permission, and it becomes very valuable how it unfolds for training. It becomes training. There is a time for review mirror analysis, and but putting it right from there. So in 2011, when this young woman went missing, when that information was released, and I began to do analysis on that back then, it was a little startling of what I was hearing, and of course, working from the words themselves, not from body language. What separates us from the rest of creation is our ability to communicate in such a sophisticated way. Words are the well established means of communication that separate us from the animals. And animals use body language. 2 dogs ready to fight, you can see what happens to their ears or their hackles. It's just right in front of them. We all use body language analysis in the sense that as we're speaking to someone, we get a sense of things. And law enforcement, especially those that are conducting interview after interview after interview, they develop it instinctively. But when it comes to getting to truth versus deception, a smirk doesn't cut it. We've got to be able to put the work to the test, working directly with law enforcement, who has evidence that they're going to have to judge, saying, does this analysis match the evidence? And one of the great techniques we use is that of asking questions. We're asking questions of a statement, hoping the statement will answer it. And if the statement does not answer it, we'll put that down as these are questions that we have. And the investigators on the ground who are doing the work, who are pouring themselves into it, who are under time constraints, also under an emotional constraint, wanting to find justice for a victim, sometimes they can answer the questions through evidence. If there's a confession or an admission, oftentimes places in a statement that we found to be confusing, but did not try to square, did not try to force it to look logical, become answered, and it makes sense to us. And this is why I always say to analysts, trust the language, stay with the language. When something goes awry, stay with the language. Now, I covered a case a number of years ago where a young man with Asperger's had reported that he and his mother were out on a fishing boat. The fishing boat began to sink. He got into the lifeboat, but she was not able to. And he called for help, and that call for help I analyzed and said, he's not telling the truth. And but for many years, that appeared to be one of the cases that, oh, you must be wrong because it's not been prosecuted. And I did have some involvement with the family later on in terms of their case against him. And I had said that not only did he do that deliberately, but I thought he had also killed his grandfather, who was a case that was not solved. Years went by on this, and I think probably 7 or 8 years went by with nothing. And then suddenly he was arrested, and he ended up committing suicide. So it was never brought to justice, but there was some, in that sense, resolution with the arrest. But the investigators, oftentimes they know, but they must gather evidence. And think of how difficult it is to gather evidence without remains. Well, in Caitlin's case, in 2011, her remains were found.
I want to stop us there because he just said, oftentimes the investigators or law enforcement, they know, but they have to gather evidence, which is often very hard if there is not remains. Okay, so he also said they ask questions of statements that have been made. And I think that's going to play a huge part in this case if the people that I think are involved are, because it's just my opinion. Hi, Rusty Pipes. But I think it's going to play, statements from interviews are going to play a huge part in this trial once we get one. Let me say hello to a few of you. Hello, Karen Powers, Rusty Pipes, Carol Johansson. Hello. Thank you, Kika, for being here. Alan Stiles, Smoky Mountain Mermaid, Being Fair. Ocean Joy. Guidance. Hi, Guidance. Designed by 2E from Australia. Good to see you. So we're going to keep going. He is going to continue to talk on prosecution. So we pick up some things that he says, statements are important, and they will analyze those and then ask questions about those. And he said, trust the language. So kind of like if someone shows you who they are, believe them. Well, if someone's saying things, trust their language. So I want to say a few thank yous. You see, we have some more members for our Little Red. We're going to have 10 more people Saturday at 1 p.m. Eastern. Thank you to Little Red, wonderful mod, friend of the channel. Thank you so much, Little Red. If you receive one of those 10 Primetime Buzz memberships, please thank her for giving you the opportunity to participate Saturday. And Judy Jones has joined our family. So welcome all our new members, Valerie, Judy Jones, and the 10 receiving gifts. And Teresa, thank you so much for your super sticker. You're all very sweet. We're going to continue. He is going to bring Sebastian's case in. Are you guys okay with this? Oh, yes, they have so many interviews. They've already started watching them, Kathy J. Blue Eyes Dumplings, hi, wait, what? Good to see you all. Panda Bear's mom, it's always a pleasure. I'm going to mute myself and we'll be back. Pick out the little investigative pieces he's telling us. Okay. So they ask questions of the statements. We know in this case, there's a lot of statements and a lot of them are conflicting. And when he says trust the language, what I think of the normal language we have heard repeatedly by an individual, in this case, CP, but we heard a different language from him when he was on the Nancy Grace show. So I think I want to use that as an example, right? Trust the language. Which language did we know to be him? All the others, or what he was displaying in front of NG? We knew it was the others. We trusted that language, right? That's how I take that. Thank you, Lady for Justice. I like to go through some of this stuff because it helps us learn what we know, we hope, we're working towards, because we're Sebastian's army. While we're waiting for more news, we've gone through the images, the lights, the audio. I gave you that map the other day from 3 o'clock to 3:10 of what I've been told occurred. So this is now Jen saying there may be charges coming soon. So we're now focusing on what do we have to look forward to as far as getting answers for Sebastian, or what do we know to look forward, not forward to like we're excited, but look forward of what is coming.
Found 2 years later. So 2011 to 2024 now. And as some of you know, John Carter, her fiance at the time, has now admitted causing her death. And here's the twist on that. It's very upsetting, but I'd like to present it from both sides there. He's taking a lesser plea with a maximum sentence of 3 years. And that has to hurt a great deal for Caitlin's dad, for example. And if some of you saw some of the comments from the prosecutor, you can tell he's upset. You can tell he's angry. And the district attorney's own investigator, these people were in earnest to solve this case and prosecute for murder. And instead, they've taken a plea, a much lesser plea, because it's really difficult to prove a case, especially when remains are found 2 years later. That makes it difficult. And other factors involved. And so as much as I understand the dad's disappointment and upsetment, family, loved ones, I think they did what they could in getting some justice. Michael Crisp was the documentarian who he interviewed me, and he covered the case. He was a gentleman. I'm sure he still is a gentleman. Referring back to years ago, he did a good job of bringing this information and bringing Caitlin's case to the public eye, and he wants justice. So if you get a chance, you can see that he's put the entire documentary, Taken Too Soon, Caitlin Markham, on YouTube, and I think it's very well done, and I think it's, in a sense, a memorial to Caitlin and a reminder of the justice that was needed. So I wish for a different outcome. I wish it was a murder conviction, but I understand they did the best they could, and they have something. At least, and I look at it from the perspective of a dad. He's admitted that he caused her death. And so hopefully more details will come out and that sort of thing. But in this particular case, it was really interesting. On the 911 call, he was withholding information. So we asked questions. We bombard the statement with questions. And one of the things I highlighted in that was the word left. And what this indicates is whenever we see this as a verb that is speaking of addressing a departure, I went to the store. My mind is on the store where I went. I went to work. I left my home and went to the store. This is where the brain pauses, back at the house or back at a location. And that's where we look for missing information. Well, what happened when he left the apartment? What happened just prior to the leaving? It's missing information. So what happens is when someone is suppressing information, they have to work diligently at not bringing that up. And picture it. It's on my mind. What I'm thinking about is what I don't want to tell you. So I have to suppress it somehow, even as it's on my mind. And it's difficult to not speak, especially if you're speaking freely. And these are little hints that give out. And so what I concluded was he was deceptively withholding information about what happened just prior to her going missing, which will be relevant in the when I talk about Sebastian Rogers there. He was withholding information, but then, so I have to suppress it somehow, even as it's on my mind. And it's difficult to not speak, especially if you're speaking freely. And these are little hints that give out. And so what I concluded was he was deceptively withholding information about what happened just prior to her going missing, which will be relevant in the when I talk about Sebastian Rogers there.
He's so wonderful. Hi, everyone. Hi, Being Fair, Passion Flower. Thanks all for choosing to spend your Thursday night with me. He is so amazing. Okay, so I know it was concerning when you were listening to him, and it concerned me too. He talked about prosecutors bringing a murder case, them prosecuting a murder case, and that the unaliver ended up taking a lesser plea of 3 years. The prosecutors were angry. But he said it's difficult to prove a case, especially when the remains are 2 years old. And remember, he had mentioned earlier, and without remains. So they did what they could in getting some justice. I do not want that to be where we go with Sebastian. Okay. I want us to have justice. So we do have to exhibit some patience, because we don't want them to race in there to prosecute murder and the people walk out like Casey Anthony did and OJ, or like this person Peter's talking about, just get 3 years. That's not justice for Sebastian or Seth or anyone who loves him, knows him. Okay. Oh, thank you, Whispering Winds. Love it when you call me Teach. You know I do. Please hit that like button. We're a little low on our likes. So he also mentioned, and this is why I think that 911 was not called in this case, is because they knew it would be recorded and released. But he talks about when you hear words like left and went, those indicate departure. And that's where there's usually missing information. I immediately thought about when she went in her car looking around that morning for Sebastian. Just some of that stuff's making me, I want to go back now and listen to some of the things, right? So I want to go back and with that in mind, what is it? Your brain's pausing at that location, and there's missing info, he says, if they're using those verbs, departure verbs. So really interesting. There's so much to learn from him. Let me circle that, departure verbs. Okay. And he said, when a person is lying, they are working so hard to suppress what they know, what they're thinking, and what they're trying to avoid saying, basically. And they are deceptively withholding information of what he said in this one case of what happened right before the child went missing. And he said that's going to come into play with the Sebastian Rogers case, withholding information as to what happened right before he went missing. Okay. But I thought it was really interesting for him to explain to us, the lying mind. They're working so hard when they're lying to suppress what they're lying about, what they know, what they, are thinking, what they're trying not to say. That's overtime work. And that's really interesting. And so they're able to identify some of that deception through the clues they leave during that. He's so interesting. Thank you so much for your super sticker. I appreciate you. Keep up the good work. Hugs and kisses. Thank you so much. I appreciate you too. I love it. Your little picture. I love that. That's so clever. You know what? It reminds me of Silver's picture. Thank you so much, Jules DeCali. You're tired today? I'm sorry, Lizzie. I'm not sure. Is Seth in the house, my friends? My mods usually message me when someone comes into the house, but I don't have my phone on me right now. So I do not know. If you are in here, Seth, welcome. Let's keep going. We're educating ourselves.
He was withholding information. But then 6 days later, 6 days after reporting her missing, in other words, it's very fresh, he spoke on the radio, on a radio interview, and I think the interviewer did a very poor job, constantly feeding him information, suggesting what he may have said, which we need these words. And this was in the imperative, and then there was 2 questions that followed. What was the last communication you had with her? Did you speak to her on the phone? Don't compound those questions. And be careful how you word them. We always want to look and locate anything within a statement that addresses communication. We do it in domestic violence, especially a woman has wounds to her face, her mouth, or her neck. It's very strongly indicative that he is trying to silence her by targeting the mouth, targeting the throat. So we want to know what she said just prior to that, because what we're looking for is her saying something truthful and accurate that set him off. And this is something that, we hear that he suggested this, and this is sometimes something that comes up that can point to the time of death. And so this it wasn't a well-conducted interview, but we still got information from it. And 2 of the things, and I think people notice these things oftentimes very quickly, is when someone references a missing person in the past tense. You have to be careful with it, because is the subject referencing the missing person in the past tense specifically about an event? So if I say, well, last Christmas, this and this happened, I'm going to be in the past tense. If it moves to the person, the missing person, himself or herself, in the past tense, now it's a red flag. Now it's something that we better look at. So the next question we ask about that is the person, John Carter, for example, here, he referenced her in the past tense repeatedly in that interview. Did investigators give him information that would cause him to process her death? In other words, impacting his language. They did not. They did not. And he went from an event to Caitlin herself. And then, of course, there's other signals of missing information, and with signals of psychological distancing, avoiding her name, that sort of thing, pushing himself away. After the interview, I said, he has guilty knowledge of her death, but she wouldn't be found alive. He knows, and he's not saying. He is suppressing it within the statement. So I think that for those of you that like to learn, take a look at Michael Crisp's excellent documentary on her life. There is one part that I wasn't pleased about, I didn't know about, was where they interview a psychic. And I think most of you know how I perceive that in terms of deception and exploitation. And that's come into the Sebastian Rogers case a lot, where someone simply listens to a criminal commentator or analysis or something and then says, I see this and I see that, or I dream this, I dream that, I spoke to him, or whatever. And then inevitably someone says, wow, she agrees with your analysis. You know, her dream or her magical crystal balls or something, all in agreement, and it's nonsense. And I'm actually looking back, because I think Michael did an excellent job. I may not have participated if I had known that. I just don't like to be associated with that type of silliness. This is difficult work, and you see it sometimes can become a bit of a circus, especially in the Sebastian Rogers case. So you get a chance to look at John Cotter's 911 call, where there's more subtlety to that. But then the interview, the transcripts are out there. I put up my notes recently, a little bit cleaned up. I put these notes up on the statement analysis blog, so if you'd like to take a look at that and some of the points of it that may be of use or value. But do watch the documentary positioning on YouTube now that's up there, especially for free. I think it's helpful. Okay, then let's go to a couple other cases. I'm going to top off the notes here and just stay here and take any questions that you have. I covered a little bit on the John Benet Ramsey, and hopefully Stephen Pagano will be able to join me on an early morning. My voice is better.
Hi, everyone coming in. Thank you so much for being here. Angie Bailey. Hello, hello. Yes, I did. It broke my heart to hear he was not well either. Yes. We're talking about Peter Hyatt, the statement analyst we're listening to. Thank you for coming in. I'm applying things to Sebastian's case, even if when he isn't. When he said, obviously the past tense, we've heard the past tense used, and not just, well, he loved to play chess. That's an event that he did. Or no, that would be he loves to. We went to, using past tense in a prior event versus transitioning it to the person. That's missing. Like, he was so cute. He loved candy bars, that kind of thing. And that's a huge red flag. And we knew that. But he also said they look for psychological distancing. And and we've seen, in my opinion, I've seen that in this case. But you remember the time we heard CP say, no one can relate to her. I think it was on Elevated Truth. No one can relate to Katie because she's so far removed from this. That's how she grieves. Remember, kind of put our shoulders up a little bit too. And also he said, avoiding saying the name. We have watched full interviews where I'm pretty sure, I would say maybe his name was saying just once, but I might be being generous in a couple of them. Okay. So we need to say his name and bring him home. And he said that those kind of things point to guilty knowledge. So if you apply that to the Sebastian Rogers case and the people we know have said and done some of these things, what does that tell us? If we apply just using, none of this is fact, it's opinion, we're theorizing, we're speculating, we're learning from Peter Hyatt. But if we took it and we applied, well, are there people not saying his name? Yes. Is there a person psychologically distancing? I would definitely say yes, in my opinion. And so then there's guilty knowledge is what that leads them to. Also talking in past tense, which is also going on in this case of Sebastian Rogers. Yes, they are going to be using the interviews, is what I've been told. They will be using the interviews if this goes to trial, which I believe it will. And they've already been looking. They already watched them. The FBI watches them. After Elevated Truth, when I used a portion of it about the truck, one of you sent it and they filed it and sent back a case, like a case number or reference number. So they're using the information. Let's see what's going on up here. Oops, sorry, I keep hitting that wrong button. Pamela Hale, thank you so much for your super sticker. You're so sweet. Look at that pup. So cute. What kind of dog is that, Pamela? He is cutie pie. Thank you so much. We're going to keep going over this. We are going to keep going over it. I just wanted to pop back in and say hi to all of you. Okay. Peter Hyatt, statement analyst, say a prayer for him. He is very ill, or he has not might say he's very ill. Let me say he has a serious illness. Okay.
Best in the morning, but early morning broadcast. I like doing lives. I like taking questions. I like hearing challenges. I like hearing different opinions, and I think that is very useful. Well, it also helps me understand a little bit of what people are thinking, and I get much from Twitter/X. I find that very useful. I enjoy that platform. I haven't written a lot at the blog. There's been some heavy censorship there over the years, and so it's a bit discouraging. And sometimes it gets bombarded with spam and that sort of thing, but I still put some articles up there. In asking questions, we keep ourselves from falling in love with our own opinion. So by the time you hear a trained analyst who has been put to the test, working with law enforcement, working with other professionals, when you hear a commitment from them, generally speaking, it's very strong conclusion. They've got it, and they've been there. It's been tested, and holes have been attempted to punch through it, and what's come out is generally a very good understanding of a case. With some of the cases, and the John Bonet one will be one of them, it's the father has become kind of a crime celebrity, which is terribly bizarre. And I put up, and you can see it on Twitter/X, a reference to someone else's work on that, which was very strong, and a lot deeper than what may be understood on the surface. So I put that there, and you're able to look at it if you enjoy following me on some of those cases. But I try to limit it to stuff that is interesting, but also helpful. And some people end up getting inspired to go into training and that sort of thing. It's not always entertaining, but the work has to stand the test of law enforcement, and they've got to be able to bring forth prosecution. So in this particular case, it was a lot of years. The Caitlin Markman case, it was a lot of years, 2011 to 2024. So along those years, and like other cases, I've gotten plenty of emails or comments of, you were wrong, you were an idiot. Hey, whatever happened to this case? And there's some that say, I believe what you say, but how come the police aren't doing anything? And sometimes I can answer, sometimes I can't answer, but eventually it comes out. Not everything does. Kyron Horman is one of the cases that still bothers me. The stepmother did it. The stepmother was deceptive. And eventually she failed. I believe she failed her polygraph, and investigators knew. And still no justice. And so that happens too. So stay tuned. I hope to get Stephen on, and we'll cover the ransom note, which, as Stephen will show, reveals the authors. It reveals them quite plainly. But I wanted to let people know, because I wasn't sure a lot of people knew about Detective Steve Thomas's book and the fact that the parents were indicted as evidence was presented to the grand jury.
Again, John
Madeleine
Benet's
McCann.
parents were not indicted.
So it's
for
become
murder, but
somewhat
child abuse.
comical as we wait for German prosecutors to make the next pronouncement. And this is over the last several years. And it's become, I think, more and more obvious to people that they're publicity stunts. What also happens in a case like that is there is a type of covering for one's reputation. Remember, they went way out of the limb. We have evidence that she's dead. We have direct evidence that links Christian Bruckner to the killing of Madeleine McCann, and we've been in contact with the parents, and it's set up for another Netflix or whatever network that people watch, another publicity stunt. And it's become, as Tanya just said, as a clown show. So if you have evidence that she's dead, present it. Don't go public with it and then pull back. And so I looked at their words, even with second language analysis. And of course, you have German speakers that are helpful, analysts. And the one particular German prosecutor, he doesn't even believe his own words. He doesn't have the psychological commitment to them. And so it becomes this type of toss it out, bring it back, walk it back, toss it out, bring it back, to see what is going to catch on. And so the last
Welcome
one
in,
was,
Stacy.
we have, after all these years, found deleted emails. Is Christian Bruckner a pedophile and a rapist, all those things? He probably is. Different statements about his character are unequivocal. They believe those words. But linking him has become this silly publicity-seeking embarrassment for them as they go back and forth. And, from my perspective, the words don't lie in the sense of the words being presented to us. Okay, they didn't commit to a kidnapping. They didn't commit to their words to these things. They did their behavioral analysis, as people have pointed out on social media. The behavioral analysis is consistent with their words. They act what their words have revealed. That they did something and they covered up. And by the way, they must have hidden her body incredibly well, which is a manipulative, inadvertent, embedded confession or admission of what happened. So I just trust their words. And I thought that the German prosecutors had run out of steam finally, because they called on the carpet on different things. Okay, so where's the evidence? Let's go back a couple of years now. What's going on? And, there's only so many tomorrows you can say you're going to present that after making very, very stupendous claims on those things. And so I don't think that's going anywhere.
Hello, I'm Dr. Steven Sion.
Much
I also don't necessarily agree with him on the Maddie McCann case, but we still can learn from him, right? Let me go through some of your questions real quick, just to break it up a little bit. He's very informative, but I want us to be able to also talk. Did any of you see, and please don't say creators in the chat or say anything rude, but I saw BHB had images that she was doing something with, and I hadn't time to watch it. And in it, she's not saying 100, this is what I think, this is what she's seeing in it. And she's asking people to look at it and let her know what you think. So I'm gonna go over and look at it later, but I just wanted to ask you if any of you had seen that. He was just now talking about Madeleine McCann. He's been talking about several cases and what happens during prosecution. The couple of things that I've picked up is, him analyzing that we don't want to get them rushed for a prosecution and get a lesser plea like 3 years, which he pointed out in another case, because the remains were too old. And here we don't have Sebastian home rescued or recovered. So it may take a while. We may have to be patient, in my opinion. Jen Coffindaffer thinks that they are starting to make some decisions to get to a conclusion. She thinks Ellie is down the road. They're going to bring it to some conclusion and charge individuals. That is good news. She said that's her opinion. Okay, so that to me is very, very good news. Where did all my tabs go? Oh, all my tabs are gone suddenly. Can you all see me? Okay. Hi, Stacy. Thank you so much for subscribing. Welcome in. Welcome in. So, yeah, so we learn a lot from him. And I just want to make sure you all are good. But I was just going to ask you all a question. Have you all followed John Bonet and Maddie McCann? But well, here's my question. Regarding Maddie McCann, put a 1 if you think it's the parents, and a 2 if you think it's someone else, a stranger or someone. A 1 if you think it's the parents for Maddie McCann, and a 2 if you think it's someone else. We're split. Okay. 1. Joe's he really thinks. Okay. You've got a headache, Ann. I'm so sorry. Mini Panthers. Okay. We're pretty split. Steven's not sure. Oh, Madeleine McCann. Victoria, you don't know that case? We will have to go over it. It is a heartbreaking case. The parents were on vacation, and gosh, I used to know exactly where they were. Right now, I can't think of it. Barb, you think accidental overdose for her? Yeah, they went on vacation, and they would leave their children at night. They had 2 baby twins, and then Madeleine. The twins were younger than Madeleine, and I think Madeleine was 3 at the time. And they, correct me if I'm wrong, Portugal, thank you. And they would leave them in the hotel room and go out to dinner, put them to bed and go out to dinner. And allegedly, what happened is they came back, and they would take turns with the other parents that were there with them who did the same thing with their kids. They were back in their hotel rooms or their villas or whatever. And they could see it. They weren't that far away, but still far away, not in the room, not watching them, not, And they were taking turns. They'd take turns, each of them, to check on all the children. Well, they had done this several nights there. So was someone watching their routine, or was something awry? And Madeline wasn't there when Madeline McCann's mother went to check on her. Now, I have never really, I've gone back and forth. Okay. Yes, the cadaver dogs hit in the McCann's kids' bedroom. And another thing is I go back and forth on is because I recently watched a documentary and I wish I had written down which one it was. If you're a mom in the room or you babysit, you'll know what I'm about to say. The documentary said, and with Maddie not there and her little favorite blanket still folded on her pillow. Now, I found that very odd because if child has their favorite blanket and you put them to bed, what do? Give it to them. They take it under their arms. They snuggle it. It wouldn't still be folded on their pillow. That was something that really, really stopped me in my tracks. I mean, think about that as a parent. If your child's sleeping in bed, would their favorite blankie still be folded on the pillow? I had never heard that before. And I heard that in this documentary and I couldn't believe it. Yeah, it's strange, right, Lady for Justice? Who leaves a child alone in a hotel room? Unbelievable. Joanne McNeil, I totally agree. Totally agree. Well, let me ask you a question real quick. I'm going to ask you your opinion. You figure she was thrown in the ocean. Oh, that's heartbreaking. Someone just said there was a book. Oh, she's gorgeous. Yes. And we have that Julia who's still claiming to be her. Julia starts with a W. You do believe the guy walked off with her? Yeah. Do you believe it's that Christian Bruckner, Caroline? Child neglect. Stacy feels they should have at least been charged with child neglect. It makes no sense. I know, Diarant. How are you? Good to see you. Phoebe from Australia, Alan Stiles, everyone. Regina Romo, Lady Roses, C. Taylor, Caitlin. Good to see you all. Joe Neal, Lloyd Lama. So what I was going to ask you is, do you want to, we can continue watching Peter, which will be if you want to keep watching Peter, we're going to do a 1. Or if you want me to pull up Bullhorn's little video of the images and we look at it together, put a 2. So Peter's a 1. If you want to see the new image or the new thing Bullhorn's been working on with the image, 2. So Peter Hyatt 1. Yeah, Summer Wells' parents should be charged with neglect too. Yes, I agree. So Peter, Bullhorn's 2, Peter's 1. I'm getting a bunch of 2s here. I'll wait another minute. Got 4 1s. Okay, so Bullhorns we're going to go to. Thank you, everyone. SL, welcome in. Yeah. Here's what book, The Sudden Impulse. Thank you, Lloyd Lama. What we're going to do is we're going to go over to Bullhorns, and then we can come back and watch a little bit more of Peter. Okay, we'll compromise. So I will put on Peter while I'm pulling up Bullhorn for you, okay? And you know what? I lost the... Hold on. Well, just visit amongst yourselves because the tab closed by accident. So I'm going to have to close it and find Bullhorn. So I will be right back, my friends. Mods, it's all yours. This is really freaky too. And she's not saying anything. She is working like all of us are doing, working on something. We're not perfect. We're trying. And let's see. I just saw it. Was it a video? I think it was a video. Okay, here it is. Okay. Okay, here we go. And she is not saying, she is asking if you see what she sees and what you think about it, and to reach out to her and let her know. Now, please don't reach out with unkindness. She's just working on something, thinking on it, okay? So, okay, here we go. Bullhorn Betty. Full credit to Bullhorn Betty. And I'm not putting the flyer up because I want you to be able to see everything. Okay, hold on. Let me see if I can enlarge it for you. I'm going to try and enlarge it for you. We're just going to watch it. I can't get it any larger for you, but she's looking at one of the light images, and I wish I could get that larger for you. I will at the end. All I need is Jesus, coffee, and true crime. Amen to that, right? If we had the resources we have now. I'm glad you're out, my friend. So what she's doing is she's comparing a photo to CP, and I'm going to have to enlarge it for you. And she's doing something with the lighting and thinks she may see CP in the light, the image. See him coming in there? See how she's doing this? It's interesting. She's changing the transparency. Okay, good. Here she goes. She's enlarged it for us. And you know, whether wrong or right, this takes time, thinking outside of the box, and caring. See how his face to her, she's seeing, see that? That's what she sees in there. When she changes the transparency, I believe is what she's doing. And there you go. See how she's moving the transparency? Wow. Okay. Run it over the white line, click and drag. Okay, let me try. Let me pause it here. Darn it, I thought I had just gotten it, right? Which white line, my friend? I want to enlarge that for you. So she's newly enhanced these using this transparency. Okay. And she believes the way she's seeing it is, and she's using a picture so you can see what she's seeing. Let me see if I can enlarge it. I just can't. Oh, well, hold on. That is full credit to Bullhorn Betty. What do you think? You have this, but you did it. Okay. What are you all thinking? Let me see here. Crime Time Buzz, let me show you my overlays with him. It's amazing. Lil Red, yes. Let's do it. Send me an email. We can talk. Maybe you want to come up on, well, let's talk about it, okay? Yeah, send me an email. Thank you, dear. I'm trying to see what Gma is saying is brilliant. Takes a lot for Gma to say something's brilliant, so I got to go see what's going on over here. Gma, what's brilliant? Okay, we're going to go to, we're going to go, yeah, I'd love to see your overlays, Little Red. Absolutely. Caroline says, I have no doubt, in my opinion, CP was in town, involved at home at Texas Roadhouse. For me, I have other evidence of that, so I don't waste any more time going over and over stuff I've seen. Okay. You have no doubt he was in town at the Texas Roadhouse. I would love to show you an image that I think that makes me agree with you, but not 100. For me, I have other evidence of that, so I don't waste any more time going over and over stuff you've seen. Just my opinion. So you believe, okay, you believe he was in town, involved at home. And Caroline, do you believe he's one of the people? Well, obviously you would then. I don't even need to ask that question. I don't even need to ask that question. Yeah. So, and Jen Coffindaffer in her show yesterday, she did not want to comment on the images per se, but she did want to say she knew who the people working on them, releasing on them, talking about them had no malintent. Well, including me, I talked about them too. And no, we don't. We're going through everything we can see and find and throwing things around. Are we always right? No. Could it be right? Yes. So let's go ahead and watch Peter Hyatt. I'm bringing to a section of Peter right now where he goes over the language of CP, Sebastian's stepson or stepfather. This is specifically about CP's language and verbal.
autistic. I don't think in any way it's mild. I think there were significant challenges for him. In this case, he lived with his mother and his stepfather, who's ready to move to his father's. And in that initial interview, the media labeled it breaking their silence, which I thought was an accurate tag to give it. And you ask yourself, well, why would anyone be silent when their child is missing? And I don't know of any circumstances where police have said, be silent. I think the standards set long ago, polygraph me, get the media in front of me. I got to get my son or daughter's name out there, face out there, that sort of thing. We didn't see that. We didn't see that. We had to have the silence broken. And so that first interview, I concluded in terms of statement analysis that mother and stepfather were concealing information about the case and the time period of the information that's missing was just before he went missing, just before he, in their words, he left. And so that I knew immediately something was wrong with this case, but some other observations on the language. Mother and stepfather did not give an indication that they knew he was dead, at least in the language. With respect to others' opinions on that, I could be wrong on it, but I'll explain why a little bit, why that is. So there was nothing for about a week, no calling out, nothing. And then we saw this video where, to me, I'm not a body language expert, but it looked like a hostage video to me. Blink twice and tell me you're okay or you need rescue, where he dominated and he was in control of the information. After
I love
that,
him. That
it
is
is
so
if
funny.
they have gone on a tour. And what it really is an apologetic tour. Apology means defense of the stepfather. Now, I'm going to comment on some of the interviews. I can't separate which one is which. There's been too many. So they got the memo. People were upset they weren't speaking out. Now they're speaking out all the time, and the content is so important. The content is this: Chris is a great guy, and people should mind their own business. And a common theme for him is, you better respect me. In all that I've heard, other than at times an interviewer directly asking, I've not heard Chris speak of what his stepson is going through while missing. Chris perceives himself as a victim, and he's ready to fight. I know that some of the interviews are very difficult to watch or listen to because the interviewers just talk and talk and talk, and they don't understand. They don't hold the information. He does. And now that he's allowing her to speak, she does. Let them speak. Let them speak for themselves. When someone asks a compound question, it allows the person being interviewed to pick and choose what he would like to answer. When they ask a multi-compound question or go on in a moralistic sense, okay, there's no reason to moralize in a case like this. A child is missing. We want the information. But when they ask a multi-compound question, very likely the subject of the interview, if he is showing deceit, which Chris is now, he's going to pick up on one of those things and use it for an answer because they're suggesting answers. So it's frustrating. They don't know that, they don't have training in that. And they'll go on about some personal experience and they think they're building rapport. Not with him. I said recently to someone, I've interviewed him 100 times. I haven't interviewed him. What I mean by that is I've hundreds of times interviewed controlled abusers, and almost always they're a step parent or a boyfriend. And his language gives us a lot. So this morning I was listening to yet another interview, and the usual frustration of some of it is tainted by the interviewer. Fast forward past the interviewer's monologue, it can be difficult to get any type of a pure answer. When he goes off for himself, then we get some. And this time, and you're seeing it more now, she's allowed to speak, and speak she does. So there's some things I want to talk about that, and some of the things they said that are revelatory. So I posted on X, which was Twitter, short commentary, a little bit of analysis, that sort of thing, about my views of the case. In their initial interview, they were not just repetitive, which is sensitive, but they spoke reliably that he walked out the door. And of course, some with training will question about why a door, and the door is very sensitive. As they're speaking now, they're still staying to that. And consider they may be telling the truth. And what they may be concealing, what I believe they're concealing, is an altercation of some form and an escalation that was more than just that Sunday. That goes back and part of the history for at least, I think, at least 2 years. And I'll get to some of that questions. So one of the things I posted on X was that Child Protective Services should be fully engaged here in a full investigation, and they should interview everyone, including the paternal grandmother, Seth's mother. She has said she has information. She needs to be interviewed. She needs to be heard. She should have been interviewed by law enforcement, but no less, Child Protective Services know that. One of the things that happens with a missing child case, you say, well, why would Child Protective Services get involved in a missing child case? Because we don't know what caused the child to go missing. Now, let's say the child is a victim of kidnapping. Were the parents neglectful that someone was able to get into the house? Well, how could they be neglectful if someone broke into their house? Perhaps they were intoxicated. These are things that have to be known. Also, patterns of behavior have to be known. So the interviews would be, with a missing child case, to find out if that child is found, should that child go back to this house again? Now, I covered quite a bit a while back on Summer Wells' case. And the drug involvement alone would invite all sorts of trouble onto that property. And then there was the language from the father that indicates sexual abuse. And it was a really bad case. And she's still technically missing. So we want to know, is the child in jeopardy if the child returns to this home? So we need to know what the home was like. We need to know the quality of the relationship between mother and child. We need to learn the history. That means, in this particular case, mother, stepfather, bio dad, grandparents, aunts, uncles, teachers, coaches, pediatrician, neighbors, anyone. And one of the questions asked, do you have concerns?
I wonder if that kind of interviewing was done for Sebastian. Ginger Girl's saying, Seth's mom, Robin. Hi, Tony. Good to see you. So, I owe you a phone call. Sorry. Last night I got home later than I planned. I will call you tomorrow. Good? Yes. Robin, wonderful. She's the grandmother, and she has given her information to law enforcement, we're hearing. That is Seth's mother. So one thing I thought that's really interesting that he said is watching the patterns of behavior. And remember, we've talked about the law of normal, what you do normally, and on the day of a crime or during a crime, what are you doing differently? So he's bringing up that they watch patterns of behavior. And it's important to look at the relationships within the home. So in this case, let's look at the relationships within the homes. Let's just go in and show what we know, okay? Not about their divorces, their marriages. Let's talk about what we know as parents, okay? So what we know as parents for Seth, since we've met him during this case, what I know, and you form your own opinion, I know that Sebastian would go stay with Seth every other weekend, I believe it was. And they fished outdoors. They had a relationship where Seth was teaching him daily skills and social skills and working with him on that. Okay. I also know that he is looking for his child. He is advocating for his child. Now, remember, we're saying we've just met these guys. And I'm telling you what I'm seeing as a public eye person. Okay, he's brought in many teams from the beginning. We saw him in canoes in Drake's Creek. We saw him searching that Natchez Park or whatever it was, and all of that. And his voice. Remember, you always ask me, why isn't Summer getting everything Sebastian's getting? And what do I always say? Because Summer doesn't have a Seth. Because if Summer had a Seth screaming for her, this would be happening. Because if Sebastian didn't have a Seth, it would be cold, in my opinion, like Summer's. I'm just saying that because parents need to be in touch, connect, raise their voice for their child who's been silenced. Okay. So just looking at it that way, when he talks about things like that, the patterns of behavior and how they behave and the quality of relationships, we see now that's Seth's relationship. He wants to see his son. He talks about him. He talks to us about him. He wants to do media, everything he can do. He's got a team that finally stands by him. And Tony, thank you for that. You're in the house. Thank you so much for standing by Seth. I know it's not easy, and I know that it's hard times. So then let's look at the other situation. We have a stepfather who admitted he has him call him Mr. Chris, who has said that he wears pull-ups at their home because he likes to go to school and pee and soil himself. Like he's doing it just to spite him. We have a stepfather who's admitted to hitting him with a weapon, a belt. We have a stepfather, and I'm telling you from my eyes, not yours. You form your own opinions. I've never seen a photo of the stepfather and Sebastian together. If you have, let me know. So those are the things I would be seeing, right? So that relationship would lack quality to me. And I would say that would be possibly a reason the child, because what he's talking about is, should the child go home when found, or would they be in jeopardy returning to the home? And that would make me wonder. Right there, I would choose Seth over CP. Well, then we got to bring the mother in. We have a mother we haven't heard from since May. We have a mother who isn't answering questions. We have a mother who has left the home from very early on to now gone, moved out, allegedly. She's not speaking up. When in interviews, she does not say Sebastian's name as a norm or speak to Sebastian. Like when Seth says, call 911, get away, go to a store, do whatever, those kind of things. You want to hear that, right? But why would you not want to answer questions? I, as a public person looking at it with a public eye, would say, well, why would you worry about incriminating yourself when your child went missing? You reported him a runaway. Why would you need to not answer questions and use the Fifth Amendment? That's what I, as someone, would be seeing as all of this. So quality of relationship, based on what Peter says, I would have to say, well, the home that I would think that they would put him back in is Seth's, obviously. Okay, in my opinion, obviously. So let's go ahead and continue. This is Peter Hyatt, statement analyst, talking about CP's language, the way he speaks, his language.
And what you may learn is, yeah, we've had concerns. Or no, I don't let my own son go over there, and hear the reasons why. And so it's not accusatory towards anyone. It's the gathering of information. We need to know. And so in interviewing a pediatrician, for instance, have you had concerns? He opens the chart and maybe there's red marks there. I've addressed them. And my follow-up question to the pediatrician would be, have you met the stepfather? What was your impression? Because he leaves quite an impression. So the Child Protective Services, Department of Children and Family, whatever it's called in different states, should have been involved immediately, and Seth's mother should have been interviewed right from the start, both law enforcement and in Child Protective Services. Most of my viewers know that I'm very slow to criticize law enforcement. Oftentimes there's things behind the scenes that we don't know of, and that sort of thing. This should have been done. This should have been done. The history is so important. I had said recently, there's no way this guy doesn't have Child Protective Services history. No way. And then I learned this morning from listening to that interview that apparently he set up, or he insisted upon, he does have TPS history. And what he said was, in 2 states, almost as if he's bragging about it. What he's doing is he's getting out in front of it. He'll answer the accusation before it hits him. And as people who are experienced with being investigated for child abuse understand, the Child Protective Services can't speak publicly about it. So the parent or step-parent investigated can say anything they want, and they do. And the caseworker, the department that handles this, they can't speak to it anyway. So there's nothing they can say. It's all one-sided. They can give information with police, though, and should. So what does the stepfather's language reveal? And one of my associates, Jenny, did an excellent job on we call it a psycholinguistic profile, a profile based on the language. And I alluded to this when I said, I've interviewed him 100 times, meaning that there's a pattern that emerges. He has the classic language of an abuser. And what I mean by classic is that it's repetitive, it's patterned, and it's easy to spot. If someone's experiencing that, they're going to know right away. Yeah, there we go. And when he was talking this, well, for me it was this morning, but maybe it was last night when it was aired, he confirmed everything that Jenny wrote about. He confirmed it. About being crystal clear, that emphatic forcefulness, the aggressiveness. Some of the descriptions people have used, including Jenny, combative, authoritarian. He is also acutely defensive. This is a guy that does not like to be insulted. And he went on and on and on. And he's done that defending himself. He ended up admitting that he has nothing to hide. And then, of course, he doesn't answer questions. But in this particular case, he did about his marriages. This is his 5th marriage. And if you've seen some of the transcripts from Facebook, he's on his 5th marriage giving marital advice. That's insight into personality. I don't care how many times he's been married. I care about this poor kid. But what matters is what he's revealing.
Wow, he really hit some of those right at home, right? Like when he said earlier that, you know, CP really thinks he's great. Everyone should respect him. You know, that he's a controlled alleged abuser. Remember, this is, in our opinion, we're speculating based on Peter Hyatt's analysis. He is a statement analysis. I liked it when he said, and he gives quite an impression. But he did say that CP likes to get out in front of things, and we've seen that in the past. You know, he starts talking about things before they go and just kind of keeps talking and talking. And it becomes like the greatest gift, right? Because we keep getting information. And he has the classic language of an abuser, repetitive. You can see it, and patterned. And he identified crystal clear, saying that's aggressive, combative behavior. And so he's really analyzing CP's behaviors. And he's not holding back, is he? Please hit the thumbs up if you will. And family members, please remember 1 p.m. Is that tomorrow? No, 1 p.m. Saturday, Eastern time. We will be meeting for our reunion, and I'm going to give away a couple of Sebastian merch items, and proceeds do go to Seth, so it's for a good cause. And we have a good time. We have a really good time. Okay, I'm going to mute, and I'll be back in a few.
He's had two that he admits up to now, at least two CPS investigation, or at least in 2 states. I think there might be more. At one point, he was asked about Sebastian coming between them in a sense to protect his mom. And he gave a very strong laugh. A very strong laugh. Let's see if I can get that. A strong laugh. And I listened to that. I said, oh, here's the tough guy. Here's the tough guy. Here's the guy that laughs off that someone would need to come between them. Oh, he's come between them. I think that might have come from the dad as he's speaking more. We also learned how much he dismisses questions that are relevant. They were intelligent questions being asked over several interviews. One question that he became very dismissive of was he was asked, do you lock your refrigerator? And he acted as if it was absurd. It was the mother talking about that all Sebastian ate was sugar, which means the glucose roller coaster for him and his dysregulated emotions. And so that was a good question to ask. That's one of the questions I thought, hey, someone's paying attention. Someone may have some experience there. Because there's all sorts of issues around locking a refrigerator. Sometimes it's for the child's own safety. Sometimes it's because they're being treated cruelly. But it's quite nuanced. It was a great question. Another person asked, how long have you been married? And what he says is that has nothing to do with the investigation. It has everything to do with the investigation. Your demeanor, your relationship, what the household is like. If you're saying that he walked out the house, and I think you're telling the truth there, if you're saying he walked out, we want to know why. And all these things can point to the reason why. The language where he keeps talking about how brash he is, he's brash while his stepson is missing. And when someone says that, and you probably heard this in different phrases, hey, I really tell it like it is. Okay, so you are someone who irritates others and brags about it. You're giving yourself a license to be that way, to be angry. No, this guy's got some real serious anger issues. He's controlling, he's aggressive. The mockery of Sebastian was rough, I think, to hear. Everything he wants to challenge and say, let's see the evidence, let's prove it, let's prove it. I have heard him speak a lot now for concern for himself. I haven't heard anything about concern for Sebastian. It doesn't mean he killed him. It means he cares about himself. I think Sebastian, what we're seeing in the language or hearing is what Sebastian lived under. And I think Seth is telling the truth, that Sebastian didn't wear a diaper at his house, but did at the mother's house. That speaks to anxiety and could be worse. I don't want to get into that now, but in the least, it can speak to anxiety of being a 15-year-old under this super insecure, acutely defensive, controlling, narcissistic, aggressive, very little man, which may indicate that Sebastian either left on his own or was put out by the mom. I'm not beyond that one yet. Let me give you a reason. It's a hint. I don't know if it's true or not. It's a hint. Let's see if I can show it to you here. It's just a small thing that I heard her say audibly that I was concerned about. He went outside to take out the garbage because it was his chore. And what those that are in training will recognize is that there's much sensitivity there. Okay, she explains why he went outside, and you'll see this. This is the explanation of why he went outside. But then she doubles up on it. And I heard that it's now very sensitive. And it's often a sensitivity that is indicative of deliberately withheld information. Once you told us why he went outside, we're done. You didn't have to double up on it. She did. She felt the need to double up on it.
He's so good. He is so good. Austin said he had a lot of comments in that statement. Let me hide this so we can, that was cute, Austin. He is just so good. He's called him a very little man, a narcissist. And he's doing this through the analysis of CP's own words, the things we've heard. Remember, we talked about anyone who goes to trial, and we don't know who's going to. We have our own opinions. Everyone has a different one, or some have the same. None of us know yet. It's all alleged. But even if it goes to trial, those statements are going to be analyzed. Yes, GTO guy, I get it. You know, they say short man syndrome, right? I didn't realize he was only 5'9". But anyway, and he said that, not that it matters, but that goes along with short man syndrome. She doubled down about the trash. Now, remember, we had a slide in one of our study sessions where we went over all the ways the trash came into this. And we've recently found out that is one of the theories, is that he went out with the trash. Trigger warning, I'm sorry for saying that out loud. It's not my theory, but, that's one of the theories. So she said he went outside to take out the garbage because it was his chore. He said because she explained why he was outside again, she's doubling down, which means they look at that as a sensitive area where there's definitely deliberately withholding information. It's indicative of that, he said. So they start to ask questions in that area when they see something like doubling down. Okay. He's so good. He's so good. He also said, and this is Peter Hyatt, he brought up do you lock the fridge? And that CP acted like it was absurd when it wouldn't be absurd when they were talking about him getting into too much sugar and getting up in the night and eating snacks. He did not want to share how long they had been married. I've noticed when he doesn't want to answer something, it's important. Or when he says something without being asked, it's important. Like when he said, and the Brinks, when in Nancy Grace, I can't get past it. When she, and I know I bring it up all the time, when she was asking about the Brinks van and he wouldn't give her any information, even though he had never asked. And I'm sure during a missing kids, when it's sitting right there in the driveway. And then he takes it a step further and goes, and it hasn't moved since. Right there, my red flag tells me somehow, some way that moved. And remember, Nancy asked him, was that blocking the garage or blocking the driveway? And I'm wondering if she doesn't ask questions without a reason, right? She said, was that Brinks van blocking the driveway so people couldn't get in and out? She was fishing for something she already knew. Either someone came in and out and was able to get in and out, or they had to move, or they moved the Brinks van, or she was hoping for them to say, no, it was in the back of the driveway. I don't know which, but she asks questions for a reason, right? So let's see what else. And he talked about him saying, well, I'm brash, like it's something to brag about. He does sense that he has anger issues, control, and yes, it's all been hard for all of us to listen to the mockery of Sebastian. The way he runs, he's got a goofy smile, all that stuff. He doesn't know how to respect space, everything, the way he gets on people, just the way he says things. He likes to go to school and wet and soil himself, all that kind of stuff. It's just awful. So let's go ahead and keep going. Peter Hyatt, statement analyst, analyzing CP, the stepfather of Sebastian Wayne Drake Rogers, language. And we've heard a lot of it.
And I thought to myself, did she lock him out without his shoes at the behest, I think, of the stepfather, who shows no empathy? He has shown no empathy. He may respond when he's fed something, but when he's speaking freely, when he's choosing his own words, when he is now off talking, he doesn't show empathy. Did he, on the phone, tell mother, lock him out? Is that why she has this, what we call like a hyper need to explain why he was out there? His stepson is missing. He called his stepson a liar. And Chris is the victim. CPS isn't going to answer that. So they went from not speaking to now not stop speaking. He also said there's someone that does a YouTube channel that he doesn't like. And this is his theme, that he's giving these interviews to make things crystal clear, of course, the emphasis, but supposedly to get his stepson's name and face out there still. And then he says, but he won't do an interview with this one fellow because he's making money off it. And you see in some of these interviews, thank you for your $10. And, it seems like a televangelist type of deal. And it's distasteful. Would that stop you from getting your missing child's name and face out there? Would you really care? And then he demands respect. He demanded it from Sebastian, and he demands it from the audience. He's making demands on people he has no control over. He's trying to control the narrative. So my opinion on what happened is that he got locked out of the house, and both are responsible. And I think there's much more in terms of domestic violence and Child Protective Services involvement than his minimizing statement about it. Much more. This is an angry man. He's not afraid to show his anger. He'll call himself brash over and over and over. The one thing I found that was quite scripted was the mother is really good at repeating. And he said, "I love you, Mama." And I think some people don't understand why I flagged that, why it's so important. It's generally a sign that someone has a need to persuade what a wonderful relationship we have. It's not that you or I say, "I love you" to your children, or your children say it to you. That's expected. It's the need to make that public and make it public repeatedly. So I can say, and he said, "I love you, Mama," and then totally forget about supposedly searching the house and getting in the car and driving around. Because the priority is self-defense. I think they caused his disappearance because of an abusive household that he was raised in. He's the language of a classic abuser. And the targets are generally women and children. So let me see if they have any questions and rebuttals, please. Because I don't know what happened, and I don't know if he's alive. Like anyone else, you lose hope. Oh, about the stepfather's language, he doesn't offer any hope. He was fed that a couple times by a couple interviewers, but he doesn't offer any help. It's natural that after all this time that he would be the first to crack. Based on his language, he did not have a good relationship with Sebastian. Based on his language. So he'd be the first one of denial, whereas you'll hear the father, who will come probably second, and the mother is still speaking as if he's alive. And again, with respect to those who have the opinion that there was more direct involvement, but I think that he was put out. I think it was discipline at this point. And if more information comes out, if they get some clean interviews, it may look differently. But if I am with Child Protective, if I am with the law enforcement, I'm looking at an abusive household that Sebastian wanted to get away from. Some of your theories or questions, let's see if I can take them here. Again, a lot of the questions are going to be, I don't know.
Okay. I love when he analyzes specifics like that and shows us the specific words that we're looking at. So just so you all know, this was from March 21st. We're revisiting it. That's what I was just going to thank you, Tam, here. We're revisiting this. So a lot has occurred since then. That's like 11 months ago. But think about it. It's less than a month to Sebastian being reported missing at the time of this. And remember, in that month, 8 days of that, we didn't hear CP speak. So in about 14 days, this is what he's gathered about CP already. Okay. He said he's an angry man. I tend to agree. It's from his own behaviors and words that we've watched. We're not making it up. We're not, saying things that we didn't see and hear. And the one thing I wanted to say is he said, maybe they locked him out with his shoes, without his shoes, because Chris told her to, even though he wasn't there, through the phone. One thing that has really bothered me is KP knows CP's really hard on Sebastian, obviously. Makes him call him Mr. Chris, says he treats him like his own. Well, I would like to know if his daughter calls him Mr. Chris. But when he's away like that in Memphis, you would think she would want to make things easier for Sebastian and, build their relationship and all of that, because CP's away and that stress of the, alleged abuse, well, not alleged, but anyway, is gone. But instead, she claims that they claim the photos she was taking at Texas Roadhouse, which I don't believe, but think about this, is showing Chris that he was eating all his food. Now that shows you should be protecting Sebastian when Chris is in town or out of town, but certainly not stirring things up. I would never do that. I wouldn't even send him the picture because you know how hard he is. Why would you show him that? To give him something to complain about or not complain about, or, So I don't know why she would feed into that, sending a picture to a guy who's not even there to show him what Sebastian's eating, a guy who tries to control Sebastian, allegedly, in my opinion. So really, really, I'm glad he's analyzing it. He thinks it's from discipline. But like I said, now, you use your own opinions. This was from March 21st. Hi, K-Mac. It's good to see you. It's been a while. Hi, Primrose, Vic. And she also pointed out the scripted, I love you, Mama. He said, we usually tell our children we love them. And that she feels a need, he says, when you hear that over and over in the narrative, it's a need to persuade of a wonderful relationship. Okay. And she had a need to take it even further and make it public, he said. He said their priority, in his opinion, is self-defense for themselves. So he is worried it was discipline coming from an abusive home. Women and children are usually the target. And he thinks Sebastian wanted to get away from him. But again, that was 11 months ago, and we've learned a lot. But we still don't know, right? Let's finish this up. Thank you all for sticking with it. This is Peter Hyatt, Statement Analyst.
Where did they take him to teach him a lesson? I don't know. I don't think they took him anywhere. I think that long phone call may have been, hey, he didn't come back. He didn't come back. Well, just wait. He's got to learn. He's got to learn. This guy thinks he's a tough guy, meaning the stepfather. My concern is that he fell into water and he hasn't been recovered yet. That's my fear. My hope is that he met off with someone to run away and they're hiding him. That becomes weaker and weaker because the person that did that is putting themselves in legal risk. They could have gone directly to police and directly to Child Protective Services, the authorities, and got some form of sanctuary for Sebastian. There's always a rush to blame Child Protective Services. Remember, what they believe and what they can prove sometimes is two different things, very similar with law enforcement. His special needs and his behaviors were significant, and stepfather's telling us that. The repeating of the personal space, mom saying, you don't go into your teenage son's bedroom at night. They're telling you. They're telling you. When you think about a child going missing, how the parents, the innocent parents, how they talk, they're always concerned with what the child is experiencing right at the moment, and they bring it back. And they sometimes talk about themselves when they're asked about it, but then they go back to the child. You cherish every moment. They're what we call high hormonal events, which leave imprinting or etching upon the brain. You don't call a victim a liar. No shoes, no jacket. If that was discipline, it's pretty harsh. Good comment. I think he experienced worse. I think he experienced worse. Yeah. You know, when you're talking about this type of autism with a 15-year-old, so you have puberty now coming in, you have someone who's not regulated as others are. And that's why I say, no, this was not mild. If I was his bio dad, I probably would say it was mild because I can't accept how things are. And I understand how challenging that would be, how difficult, what a heavy childcare burden that must be. And he apparently wanted friends terribly, and that didn't work out. I also wonder if some of the neighbors who wouldn't let their kids go over also said, we don't want to be around that guy, Chris. That wouldn't be surprising at all. You hear of someone with that type of anger, I don't want my child, special needs or not, around someone angry. He accused Sebastian of lying to the Child Protective Services. Yeah, regarding the neighbors, I think he was very isolated, and that could have been up. The description of the autism, I think, is, there's an expectation that loving parents will minimize because it's very hard to accept. He had struggles. I wish for immediate legislation to protect children from predatory and abusive non-biological guardians. Laws don't stop that sort of thing. We have a case here in Maine where, and this actually is a parallel, where a boy was beat to death by mother, father, and grandmother. He was still alive when he was brought to the hospital, and they did CPR on him, and the head charge nurse came out and told the mother and the grandmother, hey, his pulse is back, which the expectation would be wonderful news. They both chimed in to say, but he's a liar. They were concerned about what he would say. They're both charged with murder now, along with the father.
Hi, guys. That's an interesting take. Like when he said, you don't call a victim a liar. Remember when one time KP said under her breath and he lies about his homework, and whatever else. When CP was telling the story about him lying, you don't accuse lying to CPS also. You don't accuse a victim of lying. You cherish every second, every thought with them. Interesting. He, in his opinion, now remember, let's go back to March. This is in March. Hi, Soldier Girl. How are you? It's been a while. Thanks for calling me Teach. Hi, Sandy. Sandy, I'm so sorry I didn't see your messages the other night. I am so sorry. I'm glad you're back in. Thanks for being here. So, and he says, something that's really interesting to me. What if the long phone call was he didn't come back? Okay. Now let's go back 11 months in what we know now. And then he said, that could have been the long phone call. We'll know he's got to learn, that kind of thing. But he was concerned he had fallen into water. Now, do we know that all water within the area, love you too, Sandy, all water in the area was drained, all the little ponds, and well, I know we can't drain creeks and stuff. So, but anyway, and the hope that someone's hiding him, which we all have that hope, of course. And as time goes on, we know statistically that's not realistic, but it doesn't mean it doesn't happen. Elizabeth Smart came home. We've had some that have come home 10 years later. Look at the Cleveland Three, those girls, 10 years, and they were right in the area in a basement. So, and he said that something else that caught my attention. What if no one brought their kids over to play with Sebastian? Because remember, I was saying when you have that problem, you as a parent step in and you arrange the play dates, whether they start short or whatever. You do the reaching out if he's struggling to make friends, and you try and build some connections for your child, right? And that didn't seem to be happening. But interesting point Hyatt brings up that I hadn't thought of. What if people didn't want to bring their kids over because of CP's anger issues? Right? Where did you get Cliff Notes? Someone said they got Cliff Notes. Are you talking about the first 2 days of the trial, my friend? Because I'm behind now too. Did you know they seated the trial for, you must know, for Megan Boswell, Justice for Evelyn. They thought it would take weeks, and it was just day 2. So opening statements were on day 3. Today was day 4. So I saw someone say that they watched Sandy. That was you, Sandy. So you could get the Cliff Notes version of, was it the trial, love? I'm always looking for Cliff Note versions too, Sandy. That's why I'm asking you. Okay, we're going to go ahead and go back to the end of this. All children need socialization. Caroline, I have a question. You said when we were talking about the reward being raised, I'm coming back to it, my friend, substantially as the year mark comes up, you had an interesting comment. You said, well, what if Sebastian were with a former intimate partner of a parent? Then that person would more than likely not turn themselves in. Because we're trying to think of why people wouldn't come forth. Do people have things on each other? Is it family loyalty? What's going on? So that's what Caroline added. Now, is there anything to that, my friend? Because that was a quite specific comment, my dear. And I love the way you think. I don't want to put you on the spot, but I would love to know when you say of a parent, but where you're heading with that. But I know email me if you're willing, crimetimebuzz@gmail.com. Because I caught that and I knew it was real specific and wanted to circle back on that. And I hope you don't mind that I did. So you all are amazing, out of the box thinkers. Caroline, everyone who's joined, thank you so much. And don't forget to be there 1 p.m. Saturday. And I am going to give away a couple Sebastian Wayne Drake Rogers merch items because you are Sebastian's army. Let's continue. There's only a few minutes left. I think KP had a friend. Okay. Now that was going to be my next question to you because remember when you were in chat and you said you had given a description of someone that you didn't know who they were? And I'm just talking. I am talking in code, guys. Sorry. Let's keep going. Let's finish it up. And do you think, Caroline, that it's buried so deep that that's why they can't find him? Why? How in the world, if it's a friend, have they not located him? Hey, Misty. Hey, Vic. Everyone, I want to appreciate you being here this evening. We are going to continue. There's a website. Oh, wait. Yes, trafficked is still an option. Yes, it is, Sandy. Yes, it is. And that breaks my heart. And I I'm speechless when I think of it and what he would be living for the last year. And the people involved are not behind bars yet. They're enjoying their everyday life while he suffers if he was trafficked. I just can't. It makes no sense to let people go have a cup of coffee or yes. And that makes sense. And we've talked about this. Trump is getting involved in February. And what is something Trump is very much focused on? Trafficking. Right? Also, there's been no proof of any sign of him. I mean, I believe he was carried out. Yes. Do we know if he was deceased? No. He could have been knocked out, given some meds. We don't know. If someone has been hiding them, Bubbly Beth, love your name, by the way. Brokenhearted, love yours. Hey, Shelly. Karen Powers, Heather Wells, if someone has been hiding them, yes. But I hope so. Oh, Oakley's so my heart. Oakley is my heart. I've covered that case. Like the Oakley Carlson case, a missing girl from Texas. She's from, Texas fits her description. So from Washington to Texas and Texas back to Washington, I spoke to Coffindaffer. Are you saying, okay, wait a minute. Like the Oakley Carlson case, a missing girl from Texas fits her description. So from Washington to Texas and Texas back to Washington, you spoke to Coffindaffer. So you went out there, Caroline? You know how I feel about Jen Coffindaffer. She is a gem to our community. I'm actually proud to be part of a community she's a part of. And what happened? Clearly, it wasn't her, obviously. How long ago was this? You know, they think Mama sold her for gambling money, allegedly. Even law enforcement has said that. What do you think, Caroline? Oh, I'm sorry, everyone. You're in Washington. Okay. Gotcha. Well, let's go ahead and keep going. Washington has a trafficking problem. So does Arizona, where I am. Hi, NHGG. Yes, no one deserves freedom when they've done this. And my goodness, when we recover him, rescue him. If we rescue him from trafficking, there is going to be a lot of heads that are going to roll. Because the layers that it would have had to go through, Tennessee is very bad with trafficking. Not only trafficking, but out of the home. Prayer warriors in Washington too. Yeah, Oakley Carlson, that case just really worries me. She's so darling. Why didn't they just leave them with, oh my goodness, Jamie, right? Thank you, NHGG. I love she's such a beautiful angel and she had such a beautiful life. And I'm sorry their name's escaping me right now, but her foster parents gave her such a wonderful world. We're talking Oakley Carlson. They had her from the time she was like 2.5. And then a couple years later, they put her back into the meth addicted parents' home who apparently had cleaned up. They get the kids back. They keep Oakley under a stairway. She screams till she passes out. They don't feed her. Mama tells the kids Oakley is no more. She was eaten by wolves. It's a horrible story. She's not been seen anywhere. And she was not reported missing either. The only reason it got attention is the principal of the elementary school where her sister went. Thought it was odd some of the Oakley's sister and the principal's daughter played together. And she asked, some questions because the family had a fire and she didn't see Oakley when she went to give them supplies and stuff. Then she thought that was odd, went back again and had a sleepover, had Oakley's sister over for a sleepover with her daughter. And she said, Oakley's no more. She was eaten by wolves. So she called the police. What does Dia Rant have proof of? And then I'm going back to it. Sorry, I like chatting with y'all too. Little Miss Sunshine, hello. Everyone, I'm sorry, I'm getting right back to it. Hi, Carol Johansson. Oh, such a great comment. Thank you. I agree. So Caroline, apparently it wasn't her, right? I don't believe the mother. I believe she traded her for money. That's what I think too. Yes. And isn't it a shame? Well, we're going to have to we'll have to cover Oakley's case because that case I could just talk on and on and on about. So it's a tragic case, another foster care screw up. They wanted to adopt her and she was ripped out, taken back to her parents, and her demise. She's gone. They didn't even report her missing. So oh, it was just the other day, Caroline. Oh my gosh, my prayers, my prayers. Is it Jamie Jo? Is that her name? I used to know it right off the top of my head. Thank you. Thank you. Heil, right? We do need stiffer laws. If people were behind bars when their children went missing, if there was any suspicion and they stayed there till the children appeared, like Megan Boswell did, by the way, she went to jail for lying to police and she hasn't left. That was 5 years ago and her trial just started. It's on your Twitter feed. Wow. I'm going to have to go on there. I'm glad to hear. I hope to goodness. I hope it's her. I hope it's her. Let's go ahead and finish this up. And this is a great comment from Carol. I don't know what his policies are, but I think a national policy that puts bolos out to all police agencies, that is the Beyond the Lookout, as well as Amber Alerts nationally, people move kids. Yes, totally agree. We need the far reach now. We need the far reach. Whenever we have an alert, it needs to reach everywhere. Thank you for that comment. I love the way you have such interesting things to add. And don't return children to unfit parents. Thank you, Vic. Thank you. Thank you. We've seen it happen and it just doesn't usually turn out good. Thank you so much for saying that. Great comments, everyone. I'll have to mute myself.
But all the laws in the world, we have the same laws that protect you and I as parents and can be exploited by others. Can't be there 24/7. What we can do is enforce laws, and that would be a different type of solution. Chris is laughing. Great question. What does Chris's inappropriate laughing indicate? He is dismissive. He is very high-minded. He has a very high opinion of his own opinion. He used manipulative language. He will divert. He will pause to repeat a question, and he's not reading so much, but when he's asked that verbally, as if to dismiss it. The laughter that bothered me most was the claim, which I think came from Dad, the claim that Sebastian had to get between his mother and stepfather, of which this guy says he had to call me Mr. Chris. So good question. I think that was high-minded dismissiveness. Also, I think it was probably insightful to what Sebastian experienced. Martina asking, can you see the mother snapped in the language? I'm not sure what that means. Yeah, I think there's quite a story to tell about New Mexico. Yeah, great point by Jason. Jason, Peter, although you've mentioned you hope he's with someone hiding him, I also hope, and he's not with someone with darker intentions. Well put, Jason, and that was some of the thoughts with Summer Wells, was she trafficked. Yeah, someone said it's very triggering to listen to him. He infuriates people. And I think his language reveals that he likes it. He likes the confrontation. I think he is, someone wrote, I feel like Chris enjoys the attention he's getting. He does. He in his mind, through his language, he's setting the record straight. He's a great guy. He has so little self-awareness that he can give marital advice after 5 marriages. Also, by the way, he's giving out parental advice. So Chris Pridefoot is giving out marital and child raising advice. That's what Sebastian lived under. That type of blinding arrogance. He reminds me of someone that would take a polygraph after committing a crime and rush in to take it to show everyone and still fail. The question was, how long has he and Biomom been together? And I'm not sure, because he played 2 different things. I think they've been married 2 years, but he may have been there. He said half of Sebastian's life. He's a hero in his own drama. This poor kiddo. If Sebastian is gone, it started when Mom met him. And I'm not sure about Mom's own background. Yeah, he's the perfect parent, and all he cares about, his priority, is himself. If it was all about the child, he would have been out there immediately in front of the camera saying, here's his description, here's his behaviors, that sort of thing. Yeah, and I think someone said Katie Walton eggshells. It's a great description. I think that she's now allowed to speak more, which is helpful. But I think that she is likely a victim, and maybe she's made some very poor choices in the past as well, a patterned victim.
No, I very much disagree with that. We have a family member of KP's who comes into our community who has told us she is a tough cookie. Okay. She does not take baloney from anyone. She's also an MMA fighter trained in the Navy. So I'll disagree. I'll disagree on that one. You form your own opinion, please. That's how we do it here, and share what you're thinking. And thank you all. Don't forget 1 p.m. I see Cheryl Webb, Joanne McNeil, Prayer Warrior, all of you just coming in. Stephen Primrose. Well, Stephen, you've been in here a while. Don't forget 1 p.m. Saturday, and I'm going to give away some Sebastian merch. Let's finish this up. It's so good. Thank you for hanging in there with me. I know I usually don't stand here this late, but it's kind of nice to hang out as a family for a while. Hi, Sped Teacher. Oh my gosh, Sped Teacher, that's what I said. passed a sedative that they require in order to be transferred. That was my theory. I totally, oh my gosh, that is crazy that you say that. That's what I think too. I think that handoff was here. You're going to give him this. We'll be here at this time. Remember when I showed you the Netflix series about troubled teen institutes? They picked them up at 3 a.m. out of their bed in the middle of the night. 2 people come. So it's very, 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 very likely, my friends. Wow. Great thoughts. You all are just amazing.
Do I think the mother will eventually turn on the stepfather? I hope so. I hope so. But it would be, I think, in a sense, to her detriment. So I think they were in this one together in terms of that, knowing full well that they created that environment. Someone wrote, it's scary that Sebastian is having to wear pull-ups at age 15 at his mother's. And I agree, it is scary. Just something I don't find useful to talk about here now. But yeah, in the very least, it's anxiety. I think that when he publicly makes fun of Sebastian, can you imagine what it was like privately for this 15-year-old? Jason following up about the number of missing children, and he wrote 460,000.
Thank you, Light Fawn. Blessings.
And Jenny, welcome. I'm glad you're here. I hope you give consideration to maybe a blog post on your profile. You did excellent work. Jenny's a colleague. Jason's a colleague. I want to know about his military background. I want to interview people that knew him. I want to know what he's like, because his language is the language of a bully. That's why I called him a small man. He's a bully. And a special needs child as a target. Really bad news. If anyone wishes me to present your theory, glad to hear it. I know Pat Brown differs. I think that she believes it's more nefarious. The behavioral panel differs somewhat. I agree with some of the things they said about the not having knowledge of a death. I think that's correct. But I'm not a body language expert, and I like to hear other opinions and that sort of thing. I don't have enough of Mom's language. I haven't finished that lengthy interview. It's pretty rough to listen to. Oh, you think Mom snapped? Okay, Martina, now I understand. Yeah. Martina, I agree. I think Mom snapped.
So we are going to end there. He thinks Mom snapped. So I think I know several of you, many of you think that as well. Some of you think it was both of them. Both of them had snapped, had enough. And, let's talk about the transgression. Let's go from now what we know. What did Tony tell us? Tony told us that CP and KP reached out to Seth. And I spoke one-on-one with Tony about this, so I know this is absolutely 100. Wanting to put him in that school. Why is the name slipping my mind? In Gallatin. Thank goodness Seth had the sense, and this was in like October, November. Thank goodness Seth had the sense to research the school, because there had been deaths and all sorts of abuse issues. And it was for troubled teens, and it was not going to address the traumas Sebastian had been through, right? The things that he needed assistance with. I think it was Plan 2, Charles Myers. And then, so they said, well, do you have a better idea? Because he was supposed to go live with Seth. They wanted him to go early, but Seth didn't want to change his school to another physical school mid-year because that wouldn't have been good for Sebastian adjustment-wise, the change. So he had him on a list, and he hadn't come up yet for online school. So Seth finds a professional to help him find some programs that would suit Sebastian. And he sent them on December 1st to CP and KP. So that was a response to a conversation they had had on the phone. And then it was decided as a blended family that they couldn't afford it. So I don't know why they brought, why they brought Bledsoe up in the first place. Was that so cheap since it had such a bad record? I don't know. But the ones Seth brought up were more expensive. I don't know. You don't do MMA fighting, you do the crucible. Thank you for your service, bed teacher, Joe. Anyone who served. So, I lost my kind of train of thought, but I don't know what I was saying, and I'm sorry, y'all, but your comments are so interesting. But I don't think she is a weak, well, the family member even told us she's not the weak link. In my opinion as well, it was premeditated, Maria. That's just my opinion. Well-planned event. Included a trial run, in my opinion. That's why a certain narcissist, in my opinion, is so proud of Sebastian, in quotes, for not leaving evidence behind. When have you ever heard him praise Sebastian? In my opinion, allegedly, he's praising himself and them. Very, 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 very sad story. She is submissive. You're right. But is that just on camera, Caroline? I don't know, because I don't know them. So I don't know you all. Oh, I was talking about him going to school. Okay. An observation. Okay, thank you. Well, first of all, having to wear the pull-ups at school, that's just, saying, he likes to, wet himself and soil himself at school. He doesn't like to. That means he's going through severe anxiety and possibly, allegedly, other things. That's often a sign of SA. So, well, everyone, Sebastian Wayne Drake Rogers, we are 20 days away from 1 year. May we bring him home, and the layers and layers that may have to come with it to get through in order to do so. And if he has been trafficked, I wonder if it's going to take people responsible. Well, but then again, people responsible to tell you where he is, but it's usually not the people, the people who transfer don't know the big person. They're not connected. So how do you, that's why children get lost. We'll need the marshals. We will need the marshals. I agree, Sandy. That makes a lot of sense. That makes sense. I hadn't thought about that. She said, in my opinion, Sebastian was scared to leave his room to go pee because he'd have to confront the devil. Wouldn't that be such a celebration? I want to bring him home. We want to bring him home so badly. Thank you, Barb Balua. You all are gorgeous as well. This is a gorgeous community we're building here, and it takes every single one of us to do so. Thank you, Jay. You're a gorgeous soul. Mods in chat, thank you for your lovely company. Mods, you're just awesome. Yes, Mods, you work so hard And you set an example that keeps our chat going well and going well and calm and classy. I've thought of the Amish as well. And Misty has thought about the Amish because they don't watch TV. They don't do all of that. So they wouldn't know if they had a child that was not supposed to be there, a child that was missing. Right? We thought about that too. Good thing we have a lot of people looking for him, even though their lives are being threatened and there is a $100,000 alleged hit on many of them. May they stay safe. Let's pray for them. Think of them, all of those searching, so we can bring him home. Sebastian, Wayne, Drake, Rogers, and keep Seth and Robin and everyone else in your prayers. Thank you all so much for being here. I appreciate every single one of you. If you'd be willing to hit the like on your way out, if you have not, thank you so much. And if you're a visitor, sub up and come on back. We'd love to have you. Talk soon, my friends. Members, I'll see you Saturday, 1 p.m. Eastern.